Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. We're here today for another show, another transcript reading. And without further ado, let's get started, y'all.
Daddy, daddy, da, da, da. Oh, stepping man, tense. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh. Step in the court, I'm the eyes and the ears. Dropping the facts, no rumors in here. From the filings to the rulings, I'm spilling the tea. Every dark, every line, yeah, it's all from me. You want receipts, I got the page. Breaking it down, center stage. From subpoenas to them big appeals. Document Tingz, we keep it real. Yeah, Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. It's Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. No cap, no spin, just the ink on the sheet. From civil to criminal, I'm bringing the heat. When the gavel come down, I'm writing the note. Giving you the story from the filings that show. Contempt or appeal, I'ma let you in. Settlement talks or a jury win. Public records, private fights. Document Tingz, keeping days and nights. Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between. Document Tingz, bringing truth to the light. Paper trail strong, yeah, we reading it right. From the docket to the drop, every case, every scene. I'm your courtroom reporter with the facts in between.
All right, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We are here for another show. Today, we're going to get into Milagro's deposition transcripts. Now, if you were following me, we've already covered Caesar's deposition transcripts, but today we're going to get into Milagro's transcripts. So make sure you have water or a soda or drink, and make sure you have some popcorn. Make sure you've eaten. We're going to be here for a while. It may be 4 or 5 hours again, y'all. So we're going to be here for quite some time. So without further ado, let's get into the transcripts. Okay. So for y'all that do not know, let me let this load up real quick. All right. Y'all see that? All right. So for y'all that do not know, this transcript document is about 600 pages. So y'all bear with me as we get to reading. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start here. We skip through a few things. This is where it starts at. If you are just listening, just listen along. However, read along with me. Okay. So we're going to start on page 9. This is actually where it starts on. Okay. So, as you see, the videographer. Good morning. We are on the record. My name is Julie Parker. I'm a videographer contracted by Steno. I'm not financially interested in this action, nor am I a relative or employee of any of the attorneys or any of the parties. Today is July 21st, 2025. The time is 9:28 a.m. Pacific time. The deposition is taken at 865 South Figueroa Street, 10th floor, Los Angeles, California, 90017. The deposition is also taken remotely via Steno Connect Zoom. The name of the case is Pete versus Cooper in the Superior Court or District Court. The case number is 124 CV 24228 CMA. All right. This is the video recorded deposition of Milagro Elizabeth Cooper. With counsel in the room, please identify yourselves and state who you represent. Okay, so y'all see here, you got Mr. Sullivan. For the plaintiff, John O. Sullivan from Quinn. Mrs. Hayapetian, Mary Hayapetian, also from Quinn Emanuel, on behalf of the plaintiff, Mega Pete. Ms. Dixon, Rhonda Dixon, on behalf of the defendant, Milagro Cooper. Mr. Sullivan, I'll just say we have some people on the Zoom. A number of those are from my office in Miami, and some are young people just watching and lawyers who are working on this case. And I don't know, Rhonda, do you have anybody on? This is Miss Dixon. I thought Jeremy was supposed to be on. Let me see. Mr. Sullivan. Anyway, he has the details, right? I believe so. Yes. The videographer. Okay, are we ready to proceed? Mr. Sullivan. Yes. The court reporter today is Ronnie Zavalsky with Steno. Would the reporter please swear in the witness? My name is Ronnie Zavalsky. I am a certified shorthand reporter licensed in the state of California. My license number is 12359. I will now swear in the witness. So as y'all see, they swore in the witness. So the witness is Milagro Elizabeth Cooper, okay? And as y'all see here, when it says Q, Q stands for question and A stands for answer, okay? So let's get started. And for the person who is giving the deposition is going to be Sullivan, all right? So he'll be the one doing the deposition today. All right, let's get started. Okay, good morning, Ms. Cooper. Good morning. My name is John O'Sullivan. I'm one of the lawyers for Ms. Pete, and I'm going to be asking her questions today. Have you ever given testimony before? No. Okay, not in something like this. How about in court? No. All right. Have you ever been on an oath before in your whole life? Not that I recall. Okay. Did you have a chance to talk to your lawyer about just the process of what this is going to be? My lawyer spoke to me about the deposition, about what a deposition is. Okay, so I'm here to get your best testimony. And as we talked about before, I'll ask you to wait till the end of the question. And what we already told you is to think about what it's really asking and give me your best answer. If there's any point where I ask a question and you don't understand, just tell me that. Don't answer the question if you don't understand it. Tell me you don't understand and we'll try to fix it. I want to give you a question you understand, and I want to get your truthful answer. Okay? Okay. Deal. There may be situations where your lawyer will object to something. I'll ask you a question, and she'll say, I object. Most of the time, that means she's just putting that in the record so that we can argue about it later, whether that testimony can ever be used. There may come an occasion where she'll tell you, I object, and don't answer the question because it's privileged. There's some narrow categories where I can't know that. But other than the times when she says, don't answer the question, even if she objects, you need to answer, and then the judge will decide later whether it gets dealt with. Okay. Follow that? Okay. Any questions for me about this process? Not at this case. Well, she says not at this time. Okay, all right. Just a little background. Where did you grow up? In Houston, Texas. Okay, born and raised, lived there your whole life. I was born and raised. I did not live there my whole life. Okay, where else have you lived besides Houston? I have lived at Fort Campbell on an Army base. Okay, and is that when you were growing up? No, as an adult. Okay. And what caused you to be living on an Army base as an adult? I was a spouse to an Army member. Okay. And is Fort Campbell in Texas? No, it's in Kentucky. It's right on the line of Kentucky and Tennessee. Okay. And your husband's in the military? Was. He is a veteran now. Okay. And I guess starting with high school, can you just trace how you got to be who you are right now? Your sort of jobs along the way? Okay, well, by the time I made it to high school, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I was in a forensics program and I forgot the name of it, but I was in a program centered around medical things. And then I was in a forensic class as well. Like I said, because that was an extension of the debate program in Houston that I was in middle school. An extension of the debate of a debating program. Debate. Yes, I've heard of it. Okay, yeah. So I was so interested in it. So I go through high school and I graduated at 17 and went to Sam Houston State University because I changed my mind about my major. And I wanted to go into criminal justice. And I wanted to be a victim advocate. So that was my major. And then this is where he cut off. He says, let me separate there. So Sam Houston University, criminal justice major? Yes. Okay. And what year did you start at Sam Houston? 2010. 2010. Okay. Uh-huh. And so take me from there. Okay. And so I am in school going through classes, trying to figure things out. Had a misstep with you go to an advisor to figure out what courses you should take and what you should do. I didn't pick the right thing. So I had to transfer schools because you couldn't get where you need to get where you were. Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. So I transferred to Lamar in Orange, Texas. And that was in 2012, 2011, 2011. Uh-huh. Okay. And then I went to school there for a while. And then I had a daughter. Uh-huh. In 2012. So I'm out of school at that point, and then I go back home. So I'm back with my mother. My grandmother adopted me. So that's my mother. I went back home. She lives in Point Blank, literally. Point Blank? Point Blank, literally. It's in, I don't want to curse. I would say in the middle of nowhere. Point Blank, Texas? Yes. It's where your grandmother lives? By Cut and Shoot. The other town is Cut and Shoot. Okay, I didn't live there, but it's close. Yeah. There are some, she says, there are the names of the places or these places. So I went back home with my grandmother, and then I'm living there, trying to get back into college, take up a relationship. And in 2012, later in the year, is when I get married to my husband, August of 2012. August 2012? You are still married to the same person? Yes. Okay, and okay, forward from there. And then this is when we make the move to Fort Campbell. Okay. In 2012, we stayed for the rest of his contract through maybe 2015. And I have been in Houston. We're both from Houston. I've been back since 2015. And to answer your question, how I got into this at Fort Campbell, I took up classes again. I started online because of the location. When you are in the Army, you can get moved to different places. So you have to make sure that your schooling wouldn't be affected. So I began schooling at the University of Phoenix online in maybe around 2012 or 13. And this is where he cut off. Any particular focus of the classes? At this time, I am majoring in psychology. No other school has the same concentration. Concentration as Sam Houston. It's one of the best criminal justice schools, and they have a lot of different things you can get into. So I had to minor in criminal justice because they just didn't have what I wanted. And I majored in psychology. Okay, this is University of Phoenix? Yes. You majored in psych and minored in criminology, in criminal justice. Criminal justice? Yeah. It's Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice is what I ended up getting from this. Okay. Uh-huh. And I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology. Okay. So you have a bachelor's in psych, and I began my master's program, but I didn't finish it. Okay. And within psychology, was there any particular focus it was all overbroad. Yeah, it wasn't anything in particular, just a bachelor of science in psychology. And so as I'm going to school, raising my children, I was a stay-at-home mom. Then this is when I pick up the YouTube. It was suggested by a friend who thought I was funny and said, you could do that. And I started doing reviews on television shows, and maybe around 2017-ish. So I'm literally getting up and reviewing reality TV. And so that's how it got started with streaming and stuff like that. And did you just come up with the idea on your own? You saw other people doing it and said, maybe I can get into that. It was suggested to me. A friend of mine came to me and said, girl, you were so funny. And I think that I think you should do this. She had been watching other YouTube videos. And so I went and checked out a couple of videos. I had no idea people even did stuff like that. Right. I used YouTube to watch music videos. And then a court reporter chimed in and said, wait, you're talking really fast. The witness, oh, sorry, Miss Dixon. Also wait until he asked the question. She said, okay. Y'all know how she says, okay. So then she says, so I use YouTube for music videos. So I wasn't aware of the fact that people were necessarily uploading videos of themselves and giving opinions and stuff like that. So a friend of mine called me. She had been watching videos and she said, you're a funny girl. I think you could do this. And then I said, well, what are you talking about? What are you watching? So she gave me a couple of names and then I went and watched them. And I felt like I could do that easily. And I started. I literally just watched the show. I got on camera, standing in the corner of my room and said, you guys, this is what happened on the show. And it took off. And who were the people you watched just to get an idea of whether you could do it? Do you remember? Oh, gosh, no. It was so long ago. I'll give you, there was one content creator named Bindy Blue. Now, for y'all, let's pause. I think they had a mistype. I think they meant to type Bundy Blue, but they put Bindy Blue. But I think they meant Bundy Blue. Okay, so but let's continue. Bindy Blue, which we all know that means Bundy Blue. Okay, so but I'm just reading how it's read on the transcripts. Okay, all right, let's continue. I know she was one I saw for sure. And what did she talk about? At the time, reality television. Okay, and what would be an example of reality television? I started with Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta? Yes. Okay, and that's one of those contestant shows. And then it was a show centered around celebrities who were in relationships and just an inside look into the behind the scenes and how they navigate being famous and trying to keep things together. Okay, and then you would give commentary on that. Right. And at least for you, how is there a financial side? Are you making money doing this? That's a broad question. At any time, like now, is it profitable to you to do this? I would say no. I make money. Yes. Profitable at the time? No. Because you are building, like you are putting the money back in, or No, because my platforms are not all monetized. And then the court reporter asked for clarification, or all not monetized, and that's what she gave the court reporter, and they accepted that. So then now here go Mrs. Henderson. Mrs. Henderson is now chiming in. All right. So maybe if you, it's kind of an open question, but if you just explain from your understanding, like how the business that she said, how the businesses that you are getting into works, like what you are trying to do and how the economics work. She says, okay, when I began YouTube, I was already taken care of and comfortable in my life. So I didn't get into it hoping to make money. It was just for fun. Uh-huh. Based on how much you may curse in some of the subject matter, you may get demonetized, because then ads may not run on videos of that nature. I am a person who does curse a lot. So there was a time in the beginning where I was able to use AdSense and get money from YouTube, but then it stopped because I realized if I want to be able to speak through what I want to speak, then I cannot have the channel monetized. So that's why it wasn't been, or she said it hasn't been monetized since at least maybe 2019-ish, 2018, 2019, I would say. Now, y'all get out y'all pen and paper or y'all notes app, write that down. We got some homework to go and re-look back up. All right, let's continue. Okay, so you are saying that if you wanted to be commercial, if you wanted to monetize, there's going to be restraints on what you could say? Absolutely. And did you say I'd rather be free to say whatever I want? Absolutely. Then have to answer to advertisers? Yes. Okay, and I think you said not all my platforms are monetized. Are any of your platforms monetized? Oh, Twitch is a platform I use now. It is subscriber based. So people subscribe. That's how you would get paid there. And I believe that they run ads as well. And you can get a portion of ads, ad money, or however that works. Maybe you could. So Twitch is one place where you are on that platform. You get some. And that's when she cut him off and said yes. And then he chimed back in and said money from them. And then he continues. And how does that work? You just get the deposit every month? She says once a month you get a deposit. And it fluctuates based on user agreement. How many people subscribe to you? Okay. It is generally the same for all the platforms, or each one different? Each one is different. He says, all right. So staying with Twitch, do you know how they calculate how much they pay you? I don't know. Do you have any sense of what you could do on your side to get it to be more? Consistency is always the first thing that they say. Consistency in audience size? No. In terms of putting out content? Okay. Because YouTube people watch and they run ads and you get paid. Twitch people have to subscribe and they run ads. So they can watch it until they're blue in the face. But if they don't like it, you are not going to get paid. They need to subscribe. So the way you grow it, so the way to grow it, it depends on what you feel like your goals are and what works for you. But for example, on Twitch, is there the issue about using language and things? No. All you have to do is, and then that's when he had cut her off and chimed in and says they subscribe. And then that's when she continued with her question, her answer. Just talk a lot. Exactly. And you can let them know there's a box you can check that says this video will contain profanity. It's not for children or teens. So you can check that off and you're good to go. And that's what I do with my platform. Well, she said with that platform. Okay, and just ballpark. Over the course of a year, what's your average monthly take from Twitch? Just from now, like this year, not to the penny, just approximately. I would make between $5,000 and $10,000 on Twitch.
Ooh, that was juicy.
Okay, write that down, y'all. Write that down. Put that in your notebook. We're going to save it for later. He says a month. She says a month. He says, okay. And has that been pretty steady? That level? It fluctuates. I wouldn't say that was steady. I would say more in recent months. Okay. And do you have a sense yourself as the talent? What drives the business? Like what makes you from 5 to 10, maybe 50? What would you be doing? What would you be needing to do? To be honest with you, I'm a content creator. That's because it's for fun for me. And I truly enjoy engaging with the people. That's where I put my focus. Some people make it on camera and really get a set and go to the max. And I'm sure there are things I could do to grow my platform, but I do really enjoy my personal time of connection in that. What feels like a more one-on-one and smaller group of people. So I feel like it would grow organically. You know, how it's supposed to. Do you have anybody who helps you with the business side of all of this? Or you run it all yourself? I do it everything myself. Now, y'all write that down, right? Write that down. Put it in your binder. Write that down, y'all. She says, I do everything myself. Okay, let's continue. Okay, and you've just learned as you've gone along, at least the business side. She says, literally, Google and YouTube videos. Yes. Okay, so Twitch, you maybe get 5 to 10K a month when it's good. What other platforms are you on? I'm on StationHead. And what's the finances of that? Is there money involved? I have a contract with StationHead.
Ooh, that was juicy.
We finna get into some tea, y'all. We finna get some tea. Y'all gotta relate some. Okay, so anyway, but let's continue. And what are the basic terms of that? That I do a show. The show that I already had been doing on other platforms. They asked if I could bring it to their platform. Exclusively? Not exclusively. I didn't have to just do it with them, but at least 5 days a week, come and do a show on StationHead. And okay, does the show have a name? Mob Radio. Mob Radio? Yeah. It was an extension, everything else I already had. Yeah. Okay. And Mob Radio is your brand. You have a trademark and all that. I have my Mob Radio trademark and MilagroGramz trademark. What was the second one? My moniker, MilagroGramz, is trademark on a Mob Radio LLC. And is obviously your last name is Cooper. Is Grams like a stage name or yes? And how did you choose that? Just curious. YouTube needed a last name. I didn't want to use my own name. And I was like, what's a cool little name? And they called me, I have a nickname, Nino. And so they said, what about Grams? And I said, okay, that sounds cute. And ran with it. I'm not tied to it deeply, to be honest. But somebody at YouTube suggested that, or your friends. Yeah, the audience. I spoke with my audience openly. Like, what do you think? I spoke with my audience and asked them what they thought. We picked it. Okay, so StationHead, the weekly 5 days a week. And you said, what are the economics of that? How would you get paid? Now, y'all, this is some tea right here. There's some tea, y'all. Y'all write this down. Write this down. Put this in your binder or your notebook. This is what she says. I would get paid once a month. He said, okay. She says 6,300. He says 6,300 a month. And that assumes you do your 5 shows. Is there any duration of the contract? How long does it last? She says it is open-ended. Okay, could they terminate if your audience went away? She says, absolutely. For whatever reason they wanted, they could terminate it. And you too? Can you terminate at will? She says, I'm not certain. Okay. And is the $6,300 a month a function or how many? How is that determined? That's just the number on the contract. She said it is flat. It's flat? Yeah, it's flat. Okay, let's pause. So if we've all collectively been listening, so you're saying that you make a flat rate on StationHead for $6,300 a month. And when you are doing shows on Twitch, you can make anywhere. Let's go back, y'all. We're on page 29, so y'all keep that in mind. You can make anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. Y'all see that right there on page 25 at the top? Right there. Well, I messed it up, but right there, y'all see that? Okay, let's go back to page 29. So you do the math. 6,300. That's guaranteed by her logic. And then you go back and you say, okay, Twitch fluctuates anywhere from 5 to 10,000. So this is my opinion alone, and my question. Why is it that she's hounding her audience for cash apps? Y'all write that in your notebook, put that down. All right, let's continue. And he said, yeah. She says, yeah, it's flat. So then he says, is there something that would in your mind entitle you to get more there? Like, is there a sliding scale, or is it tied to something that then would go up? She says, no. He says, if you could better in their eyes, well, if you did better in their eyes. She said, that's not anything we discussed. No. So then he says, okay, so whose idea was the 6,300? Yours or theirs? She says, I'm not sure at this time whose idea it was. He says, okay, did who approached who for you to go to StationHead? Did you reach out to them? She says, a StationHead came about because of an opportunity I was offered on another show on their platform. So I actually had to do somewhat of an internship for about 2 years before I was offered a deal by StationHead. So the StationHead offered it. Okay, and tell me what was the internship? Who was involved, and what were the terms of that? Rashida Ali is her name. Rashida? How do you spell her? Well, how do you spell the last name? Ali. Okay, Rashida Ali. She did a show. She has a show and a blog titled It's on Site. It's on Site? Okay. In 2019, I was asked to appear on the show as a guest, auditioning for a gossip column. Okay, so you were auditioning to be like a feature on her show? You'd come in and talk about, she says, in co-host. He says co-host? She says, And your area would be the latest gossip. It started with the gossip column. But once Ross saw my show and she felt like I could do more, it became a co-host. So I was able to give opinions, present topics, and it would be more equal than just cut scene off to the side. Gossip column. Okay. And when you did you ended up doing that for 2 years? Once I did the preliminary video or the preliminary stream, they loved me and I stayed on. And I actually did my show on StationHead and a show with her on StationHead once a week. So I had 2 shows on StationHead starting in 2019. So starting in 2019, you had your show 5 days a week? Mob Radio? No. 2019, I was with Raw Ali. Okay. I thought you started doing both. No. It happened late. You asked me how I got to mob radio. Yes. All right. So 2019, you start this with Raw Ali, and they love you, and your role gets expanded, and it's basically co-hosting. And how long from starting to do that until you had your own show? From 2019 to 2021. All right. You got your own show in 2021? Yes. And a formal contract, but StationHead was paying me prior to my formal contract for my show on their platform. Okay, and what was the current contract is $6,300 a month, right? Uh-huh. And what were you making prior to that contract? Prior to that, I don't know the exact amount that I was making. It was, and then he chimed in and said ballpark. She says it was based on views at the time and incentives. I don't want to give you an incorrect number. I really don't know. I don't want you to, but also, I mean, it's your business. It's your money. You would have some idea. Was it $1 million? No. At the time, maybe $500,000 a month. Yeah. And you said based on viewers and incentives, what would be a typical? Do you remember what the incentives were? At the time, it was viewers. Okay. And so it would be if you hit X viewers, you get a bump in your money. They had a pay scale. So based on the viewers you got, they were willing to pay a certain amount that month. Okay. All right. So you have Twitch, StationHead, other platforms that you are out on. I am on Kick as well. Kick. Okay. Is there any financial aspect to that? No. I just started. Okay. Could there be? She says yes. Is there a way to monetize that? Yes. And what makes Kicks different than the other two? StationHead, and she's chimed in and says nothing. It's very similar, almost identical to Twitch. Okay. Does it have, I assume it's a different audience, right? Or no? Sometimes. I personally believe many people watch the same people. Okay. So what did you start on, or when did you start on Kick? Just, she chimed in again, within the past 3 to 4 months. And what made you want to do that? More income. And what's the income proposition there at Kick? Once again, it's subscriber base, so it's open-ended. Okay, and you just get a piece of whatever the monthly take is on the subscribers. I don't know how to break it down, but yes, based on subscribers. But I'm fairly new, so I haven't seen a return on that. You haven't gotten even one invoice? No. Uh-huh. But you expect it's going to say you have this many subscribers? Yes. And we charge them X a month. And we're going to give you 20%, right? Whatever. Okay, do you know what the split is? No. Okay, so that's new. And you say you don't really see that as a different necessarily, like a different audience. I don't. Just different way to get to. Okay, so Kick. Other platforms are you are on now for streaming is well. Let me wind it back. For streaming, that's it. Twitter, StationHead, not Twitter, StationHead, Twitch, and YouTube. Okay, and I have Rumble. I don't use it now. And what is Rumble? Another streaming platform. It's just like Twitch and Kick, but it confuses me, so I don't use it. Okay. So you are not getting money from them? No. You don't see your fans there? Right? I've done a few videos on Rumble, but I was confused. I left it. Okay, and then so that's all. That's all the places people would find you streaming? Yes. And that's all the places you get money from streaming? Those 4, right? Right. Twitch and StationHead is where I get money from streaming. He says, right. And Kick might return. Well, get it out. Kick might turn into that, but Rumble, no, because you don't use it. Right. All right. What about other social media? Other ways you get your words out there to the people? I have a Facebook page. Okay. And a blog page. And what do you do with that? It's an extension of my Instagram page where I blog. So it literally sends whatever I post on Instagram to this Facebook page. Okay, and do you make money off of Instagram in any way? No. Or you just promote the other things? I just promote. I don't make money off of Instagram. Okay. And do you use Instagram to promote your streaming in? Yes. Streaming here and there? Yes. Oh, okay. So in have you learned in doing the business how that works? Meaning like the effects you get from certain kinds of promotion and kind of attention getting stuff? No, unfortunately. You are still feeling your way, you know. And then he says, go ahead. She says, it's difficult because I'm the talent. So trying to figure out that background, a lot of people have a team to do all that stuff. So no, I haven't focused and I'm not really knowledgeable about those different things. Have have you developed a sense just being in it for the time you have of sort of what sells? What gets eyeballs? What gets attention? In a way, in a way, yeah. And what do you think is on that list? Like if you are thinking how I am going to increase my scope, get more people, get more attention, what are the things you've learned that pump that? I've learned that you need to be accurate, timely with your information, and it needs to be clean in terms of presentation. I think those are the biggest things. And by clean, do you mean no bad words, or I mean clean in a way that the visual appears in the sound? And it needs to be produced in a way that people would deem it quality. Yes, and on all those things, clean, accuracy, timely. Do you try to do your best in all of those? I do. And then it said, oh well, let me remove that. All right, sorry y'all. And then it says, okay, all right, and I already read that. Okay, she says Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and I'll just go to Twitter. He says, do you get any direct economics out of that, or it's just promoting the other things? She says, I have gotten money from Twitter before. Okay, tell me, just how did it work? What do you do, and what did you get? Okay, there was a time on a particular page I had where, based on I believe your engagements on Twitter, Twitter will give you a payout. I made no more than $500 from the entire time. Even if that, you can get maybe a $12 check for a month. I don't know what the scale is and how they did it, but it was very like low. Okay, and what does in that situation, what does engagement mean? Somebody responds to you, or there was an update on Twitter where they began to show how many people had viewed a post. I believe that's what they were referencing, but I'm not sure. Uh-huh. And then there's some math around that. They say you got 5,000 views and under our system that gets you $4. No, they don't pay for. Oh, 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 I thought you for Twitter? Yeah, I believe so, but I'm not certain how they worked. But you think that wherever that is, or whatever that is, or it is, it's engagement based. She says, I believe. And engagement probably means views. Yes. Okay, but in your case, the best you ever did was 500, or anything together was 500 on Twitter. And I think that's exaggerated. Okay. And then what about Snapchat? I never made a dime from Snapchat. Okay. And so why do you have that? Just to general promotion of your presence and feed the other platforms? It started actually as a personal page. Okay. As popularity has grown and more people have become interested in me, it kind of turned into a public page. It's actually a personal Snapchat. Okay, other social media presence. I have TikTok. Okay, and are there economics around that? And do you get paid for that? This TikTok was given to me by someone else. Okay, So when I got it, I was able to get a couple of checks from TikToks. Yes. So how did that happen? Someone said offered to give you their TikTok, or you asked them for it, or how did that happen? There was one of my pages on social media was targeted and deleted wrongly. And a subscriber of mine said, I have a TikTok page I don't use. Do you want it? I said, sure. What is there some identifier of the TikTok account? Like, does it have a name or something? Yeah, I believe it's misinformation at the time. I saw that. Mids or with Z's, right? Yes, two Z's. Okay. It's supposed to be an extension of my blog. So it's supposed to be kind of branded the same, but I don't use it at the time. So I'm not certain what the name is at the time, but I believe it's misinformation. All right. And did you go back and look at any of your old social media or things on your phone or your computer to get ready for this deposition? She says, I looked at the case documents, like the complaint itself. I looked at that. He says, all right. What about any of your own personal information that was getting produced, like in response to a request for documents and the questions? Yes, I did. Did you go back through and just try to remember what was going on? Yes. All right. And did you see in there that misinformation was what you used, right? I cannot confirm that. Okay. Because you didn't see, like, have you in the last month seen anything posted by you to that site or handle? No. Okay. Can you recall putting up anything at the misinformation? What was it? A website? Or she says it's just the username. Okay, but a username on what? She says for TikTok. On TikTok? Yeah. Okay. Have you gone back and looked to see whether there's anything on misinformation? She says, oh no, TikTok. That's from you? No. Okay. And do you know, can you remember today whether you ever posted anything to that misinformation on TikTok? Yes. I posted to misinformation on TikTok. Yes. Okay. And you said something happened to your one of your other social media accounts was deleted. And so one of your audience said, I have this. You can use it. Right. And do you like formally transfer it, like officially? Yes. I met with the person because I know them. Okay. I met with them in at their apartment and we went over it with our phone. So you have to change the information's name, email, phone number. So we did that together. Okay. And is this a person in Houston too? Yes. And what is him or her? It's a man. And what's his name? Mike Ray. How do you spell that the last name? Ray. Ray. Okay, and this person, did you know Mike before he reached out on and said you can have my TikTok? We had a point of reference. And what does that mean? Point of reference. I would not call him a friend. He was a fan on my show, and I enlisted him to try to intern for me to post on my blog, but it didn't work out. It did or didn't work out. It did not. Okay. And other than being a potential intern on your blog, what did Mr. Ray do for a living? I'm not sure. Okay. Did he become an intern for you? Yes. All right. When was that? I don't, maybe 2022. All right. So, and prior to them reaching out to you in some way on the social media, did you know him at all, Mr. Ray? No. All right. So when somebody came to you through social media and this person said, I'm your fan, right? That's my mob radio. And you had a dialogue. And at some point you suggested, why don't you come and intern with me? He was a fan of mine and he came to a meet and greet of mine and I met him in person. And that was sometime in 2022. No, it was before that. I don't remember exactly when it was. All right. Where was the meet and greet? In Houston. Okay. And where in Houston? Where did this happen? Like at a restaurant or a hotel? I had booked the location. I had booked, oh, y'all, excuse me. Who had a burp? Y'all, excuse me 1 second. I'll say sorry about that. She says, I had booked Airbnb. Okay. And is it like a party or it's like a meet and greet for fans? Okay. And do you recall how many people were there? I don't. Was it more than 1,000? No. It was less than 20. Less than 20. Okay. Uh-huh. And all right. So you met Mr. Ray at this thing. And then when you met him, did the issue of a possible internship come up right then? Not at all. When you met him, did you have any sense of what he did or what his interest was besides being a fan on your show? No. Is there any particular reason you thought of him as a candidate to be an intern? No. He asked me, and he had been around, and then that's when he cut off and said, okay. And then she continued and said, for a while as a fan, engaging in the comment section. And I felt like maybe I'll give him a chance. Did you have any understanding of did he have any particular knowledge or skills? Was he an expert in something, or what did you think he was going to bring to the table? So what I did was I went and printed out different papers that listed my expectations and how I wanted things to look on my platform. I went and sat down with him. I met him for lunch at the steakhouse, and I presented him with these things. And I said, we'll see if you can perform in a way that is satisfactory to me. And it did not happen that way. And so that's why fairly quickly I said, this isn't going to work. And I went back to doing it myself. It was a very short amount of time. What would you say the whole soup to nuts? How long was he around? Less than a month? No, more than a month, I would say. And what is it fair to say what he was going to help you with was like production values, or it was going to be more than that? I was going to be to post to Instagram on my Instagram blog. All right. So the expectations were he was going to he was going to kind of keep track of everything you were doing and make sure it got posted to Instagram. I just needed him to post trending topics and new stories on Instagram. And that would be under your Instagram account. Yes, my blog page, not my personal, your blog page. And did he have his own Instagram account or blog page? Yes. What was his, what do you call it? Handle? Name? I'm not certain what his handle was. Do you follow him on social media? I do not. Did you back then? Yes. Okay, and at some point, you unfollow him when he didn't work out? I unfollow him based on a disagreement. All right. What was that? He was a very active member on the comment section. As a fan, he was just very active. And I didn't see him for a while. I had his personal phone number, so I called to check on him. He did not answer. This went on for weeks. Eventually, I called his job and I said, hey, I tried to book an appointment. He was at Paul Mitchell's doing hair. So I said, can I book an appointment with Mike? And the woman said, sure. And that's when I knew he was alive and okay. So I said, okay. So I just hung up the phone. And that was my issue with him, that I was trying to check on him and that he wasn't answering. So when he got back in contact, he did that. He was going through something and he apologized. Now pause. How many of y'all remember this story on StationHead? How many of y'all got this recording? There is a recording on StationHead. Now, this is my opinion alone. This is my opinion in a question that I have. Is this truthful? Okay, let's continue. All right. So at the time, what was the disagreement? That he had been a very active person, and he was still someone who was adding to the space and coming and giving information, and then he disappeared. So she said, I was worried because this is someone that I gave a positive exchange with at this point. It's been years at this point that I've known him. So I've been to his home, like I told you. We went out to lunch. So when he didn't answer, I was worried about him. So I was upset because I felt like he could have just let me know that he was okay. All right. So the disagreement was that he stopped being so active on social media and the ones that you were in together. My disagreement was that he was seemingly missing to me. I was concerned for his safety. He was so active that when he wasn't, I thought something happened to him. Now, pause. Y'all remember this story for some of y'all that are in here. Again, there is a StationHead show that talked all about this, that she spoke about. You was concerned for him, Milagro? Okay, let's continue. She said, and then he says, okay, so are there other fans who you had that level of concern for? Where you would go call their job and see if they're around? This is what she says, y'all. Y'all listen to some tea right here. Y'all listen. So then she says, not call their job, but I've had a fan that I took groceries to because he was fired from his job for stealing food. I literally personally purchased groceries and took them to his home because he had come to a meet and greet of mine, and I thought he was nice. He was active in my community as well. Now, why would she say this? Okay. If y'all know, y'all know. But let's continue. Yes, I have done. Yes, I've looked out. Okay, and how did it? I don't know if I'm confusing this. So then she says, so Michael Ray, he is the one, he was going to do some things, post to the Instagram. It was less than a month before you figured out it wasn't going to work, right? Right. And then how does that lie? Well, how does that tie into all this other stuff about looking for him and checking if he's okay? Girl, some tea right here. Y'all listen to some tea, right? So anyway, so then she says, well, you asked me about following him, and I explained to you why I unfollowed him. It had nothing to do with him working for me, just as a person who felt like he may have been in trouble. He was very active. So once I saw he wasn't, I got concerned. Okay, and what's the time? In other words, did he intern for you first, and then he kind of disappeared, or the internship happened first, and then this incident I'm telling you about is years later? Okay, so he was an intern and he left on not great terms, right? No, we were still fine. Oh, you were fine. He just wasn't good at what you needed him to do. Right. She said, yeah, right. So you said this isn't going to work. Right. But let's stay friends. Yeah. And he continued to be on your social media. Right. And he was very active. So when you ask me, well, why did I unfollow him? It was because I was worried about him. Now pause. Again, some of y'all in here, y'all know the story. Well, let's continue. Okay, and are you still in touch with him, Mr. Ray? No. Okay, is there a reason you stopped being in touch with him? The reason that I just gave. I just feel like it was very inconsiderate to not at least say, I'm okay. I made it very clear that I was just concerned for his well-being. And I just felt like, I don't want this to be in his situation or in this situation again. So let's just Keep it how things are. No contact. Now pause. Y'all get out y'all pen and paper. Y'all write down y'all notes. Do y'all not remember or do y'all recall that StationHead show when this occurred? I need y'all to go back and do y'all's homework, and let's just make sure we got the recording, and let's make sure that StationHead show ain't just up and disappear. So y'all write that down in y'all notebook and get that down. Okay. All right, let's continue. And what did he say? He wrote me multiple times. He texted me begging to speak to me. He asked for forgiveness. He said he was sorry. And was there anything romantic in their relationship? Absolutely not. He is, I don't know if I can say this on here, but y'all see the word. He is LGBTQ. That's what we're going to use in substitution to this word. Okay, we're going to say LGBTQ. So she says, absolutely not. He is LGBTQ. And the thing that took it apart was that he didn't check in with you, and you were offended by that. I wouldn't call us friends, but I thought that we had enough history that if I was calling to see if he was okay, that he would be considerate enough to say, I'm okay. An extended period of time went by where I didn't know what may have. I didn't know anything. I was just concerned. Okay, but after all that, he wrote you. He apologized profusely and said, I'm sorry. And I said, that's okay, but I don't wish to build. But we're done further. Right. Okay. So let's continue, y'all. Okay. Other social media that you're on that we haven't talked about. Okay, y'all, there's some tea right here. There's some tea, y'all. Y'all listen. We got some tea right here. Okay, so y'all, we getting ready to speak about the Discord. She says, I think we've gone on all of them. Y'all heard that, right? Y'all see that too with your own eyes. He says, okay, other social media that you're on that we haven't talked about. She says, I think we've gone over all of them. He says, Discord, does that count as social media? She says, I'm not sure how Discord is. He says, what is it? I would describe it as a community server. A community server. He says, okay, server like a computer server or they use the term server. I don't know. How long have you been using that Discord? Maybe 2018, 2019-ish. It's been a while. And what do you do with Discord? Obviously, it's a broad period. But starting in 2019, how have you used that as part of your social media? Discord is a space for my community to be able to speak when I'm not live. I use it in the hopes of a bonding tool. So there are chats for gathering, working out, prayer. Sometimes we watch things together because you can stream music videos. When I said watch things together, things that would get you a copyright strike on YouTube or Twitch. So music videos and things of that nature would get a copyright strike. I can't stream a music video and give my opinion there. So I would say, let's go to Discord and we'll watch the music video there so we can see it and hear it. And then you have to go back to the other platform to talk. And this is, basically what she's saying, that they will have to go back to another platform and talk about how you want it. So then he chimes in and says, you said there's channels for gathering and these things. Those are within your, she says, yes. He says community, or it's more general. She says a Discord server begins blank. It's a blank canvas. He says, okay, so you create everything about it. So I personally created rooms. He says, okay, so if we were to compare it to a physical space, in your Discord world, there's a room that's gardening. There's a room that's, she says, right. And if it was this building, this would be a gardening room. Across the hall would be a room for people to talk about sports. There would be another room for people to pray and give words of encouragement. There would be a room for people to talk on the phone. Okay, and you set up the rooms? Yes. And what is this whole space called? At the time, it's called Mob's World, MOBZ, Mob's World. And like today, how many people visit that, or is it? How do you measure the popularity of that? They allow me to see how many people are on part of a community. Okay, and so in Mob's World, in Discord, how many people are part of your community now? Y'all, there's some tea right here. There's some tea. Y'all listen to some tea right here. Y'all listen. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. I would say maybe 3,500. It's 3,000 and something. Y'all listening? She says, I would say maybe 3,500. It's 3,000 and something. And what was it back in 2019? Much smaller, maybe 20 people, maybe 50 people, something like that, very small. All right. And you said one of the utilities of Discord is if there's something copyrighted that you want to look at and talk about. If you did it on Twitter or one of those other ones, you would get a copyright strike. Right. Okay, now y'all, let's pause. We haven't even finished talking about the incentives. Okay, we know the incentive of what? We know the incentive of StationHead. We know the incentive of Twitch. She stated that she is not monetized on Kick. She's not monetized on YouTube. So in my opinion, this is my opinion alone, my question. I wonder when are they going to get down to the bottom of, okay, so do you make any money on Discord? Because to my knowledge, in certain rooms, to get access to the whole Discord, she charges $5. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. And tell me what your understanding of what a copyright strike is. A copyright strike is the person doesn't want you using the content on your on your video. So how does that present itself to you? So have you had one? A copyright strike? I believe so. So tell me what you think it is. Like what happens? You post. So what happened is I would be streaming and the system, YouTube system would, however they detect these things, would say, hey, you have they would send me an email. You have a copyrighted material on your video. Sometimes they would say, because you are not monetized, there's no effect. You can keep it. Sometimes the owner doesn't want it used at all. So you go and mute the audio and you can keep it, the video up. That's basically it. Okay, but when they send you that message, they're also disabling the underlying content, right? It depends on the copyright owner. Okay. They get to decide. All right. But whatever it is that happens there, it's better for you to send people to Discord where you watch it without it getting copyright. Then here comes Miss Dixon chiming in. Objection, assume facts not in evidence. And then Mr. Sullivan says, okay, well, I just want to know exactly how it works. So I think you told me that one use of Discord, it's in place we can look at content that might create a copyright strike over there. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, and what's an example of something you look at on Discord to avoid this copyright strike issue? Okay, so Beyonce came up with a music video today, and it was a topic on my show on YouTube. So I got to talk about it, but we want to hear the song and we want to watch the video. Beyonce, more than now, you could have used anybody else's name but Beyonce. But okay, let's continue. Where did I leave off at? Okay, Beyonce more than likely is going to flag that and make you trim out that whole segment of your video. So now the integrity of your video is affected. You don't want that. So later on, as we're bonding, chilling, hey, did you guys want to watch that Beyonce video? Sure. Watch the video. All right. So what I'm trying to understand is what's the timing? In other words, do you talk about, he says, do you talk for a while on your social medias that may have this copyright issue and then say, hey, go to Discord and look at this and then come back and talk? No. Discord is just a community space that runs on its own based on the members. That happens sporadically, I'm sorry. Come in and out. It's literally at people's leisure when they want to. So it's not scheduled. It's not, hey, I talked about this today, so I'm going to Discord to do this. No. Right, but is what you're trying to do for the fans saying you can come talk to me about this late breaking video? We're going to talk about it. If you need to see it to understand what we're talking about, go over here. No. Tell me in your words, what's the point of having the music video on Discord and the conversation on one of these other social media? So I'm a music lover. StationHead is a radio hosting platform. All the streams count towards Billboard. So music is a big part of mob radio. It's a big part of what I do. So I actually have plugins. People can play music on here. So it's not, I talked about this, so let's go here. Simply because I don't have that freedom on YouTube. If I am in this space and it comes up, we may watch a music video, is what I'm saying. Or there was a topic that people are talking about, and there's an opportunity at that point. Hey, y'all want to watch it? Then we'll watch it. It's not an orchestrated thing like that. No, it's not an extension of my show in any way. Okay, I understand it's not orchestrated, but just the basic, we're talking about something that you think you can't put up on YouTube, right? Because it's going to get one of these strikes? No. So to explain to me in your words, I want to understand why you use Discord as part of this to post a music video in the case you gave me Beyonce. No, what I'm telling you is Discord is a community space. And so it's a handout. What she said is a hangout. So to speak, so what I'm telling you, we may watch things. You can use channels for different things. So I'm telling you that when I'm present, okay, I may play music video when I come in. I want to talk about something. So I may play a music video. I may listen to music. They have movies on YouTube. We may watch a YouTube movie. So it's not about, I was copyrighted, so I want to go to Discord or something. No, because I don't get a negative effect on YouTube. Child. Bye. Okay, let's continue. All right. I'm misunderstanding. I thought we started this whole thing with you saying some things, go on Discord because on YouTube, I'll get a copyright strike, right? It's possible, yeah. And that Discord was the solution to that. You are not going to get a copyright strike on Discord, right? Assumes facts, not in evidence. I'm asking her for her experience. Objection calls for speculation. No, it wasn't. Speculation on her part as to what YouTube is going to do. I just want your experience. And it calls for a legal opinion. Counsel, objection calls for a legal opinion, says Ms. Dixon. Okay. And you just need to say objection. If I need the basis, I'll ask you. Oh, you heard some tea. Y'all, some tea right here. Some tea. Y'all recall yesterday when we was reading Caesar, how Mrs. Hyapisha was getting into it with Ms. Dixon. So apparently she looked like she's doing it right here, Chad. All right, let's continue. I think I do. She says, I think I do have to give the basis, like relevance in. He says, no, you don't. Some people call that, she says, you can't just object and not say what it is. I didn't say speaking. I'm just saying calls for a legal opinion. I didn't justify it. That's the basis of the objection. Okay. I don't need a legal opinion from you. Chad, they get into it, but you know, some tea right here. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. I want to understand in the situation. You told me with the Beyonce video on Discord and a conversation coming, going on with you and your fans on another channel, why are you doing it in that way instead of just putting it all together on YouTube in one space? Because by the time I'm on Discord, I'm not working anymore. I'm trying to relax and I actually get to know my community and hear what they have to say. So this is not a show. I routinely say Discord is not about me. That's why it's Mob's World. It's for the people. So it's just about trending what's going on. People talk about their own personal lives. So it's not because YouTube doesn't let me do something. I go to Discord. No, I'm just telling that you, she says, I'm just telling that you, I don't know these people personally. So the only place they can meet me is what, I talked about on my show. So show topics may come up is what I'm saying. Uh-huh. Right. But we got in this whole thing because of the copyright problem. You brought that up, right? I gave you an example of something. All right. I'm just trying to stay with that example. Okay. Is it your understanding that there are different rules on what you can do with copyrighted material on Discord versus social media platforms? Yes. Okay. And the rules are looser on Discord, would you say? I wouldn't say looser. I think because of the benefit of that artists get from YouTube, because they make money on those videos and stuff like that. That's why they're more strict. On Twitch, I also play music videos that YouTube may copyright. So it just depends on the platform. But every platform has rules. Somebody could report the Discord. So every platform has rules. Uh-huh. But your understanding is the chances that you are going to get in trouble on copyright grounds on Discord or lower than YouTube, right? No, because you can't speak for what someone else may do. Somebody may flag you. Like I told you, one of my pages was falsely flagged and suspended. So no, I didn't have the confidence that it wasn't possible. Of course, it can happen. You didn't treat it as just a workaround for something you knew you couldn't do. You couldn't put it up on YouTube, so it wasn't. She says, right? No, it wasn't at all. No, he says, okay, and you said your social media was suspended. Which account was that? My Twitter. She said, I've had Twitter and Instagram suspended. Are they currently suspended? Either of them. My Twitter is currently suspended. And what were the stated grounds for that? What was the reason they gave? Evasion, I believe. Evasion? Yeah. That's when you make another Twitter after one had been suspended. Now, shit. Now, y'all listen to tea right here. There's some tea, y'all. Y'all listen to some tea right here. So she just admitted to Sullivan that her Twitter was suspended for evasion. And the definition that she had just given was, that's when you make another Twitter after one has been suspended. Okay, let's continue. Okay, is that the word they use? Evasion? I believe so. And he said, when was that true of you? Had you had a previous account suspended and you made a new one? Yes, I had a previous account suspended. And that previous account did have a different name than the more recent one? Yes. Okay. And what was the reason, and what was that the first time your Twitter account got suspended? No. All right. What's the first time your Twitter account got suspended? What year? I don't recall. Best you can estimate? Was it 1940? This boy said 1940. Yeah. Okay, let me continue. She says, no, I wasn't alive. This is, and she says 2020 possibly. Okay, and how long had you been on Twitter at that point? Since 2010. Okay. And 2020 was the first time your Twitter, gets taken down? Literally suspended? That's the first time I recall. Okay, and what was the stated reason back then? I don't recall. Were you bothered? that my page was deleted? Yeah. I was frustrated. Yes. And did you try to understand why that they were able to do that to you? At the time, I'm sure I did. And sitting here, you can't recall why they suspended your account? No, because I get harassed a lot. So it's always something that doesn't make sense. Whether it makes sense or not, you can't even remember the reason they told you your account is suspended? No. For example, I got an account suspended and I didn't get a follow-up email. So I had no idea why. And she says, and I had nobody to contact. So there are some instances where I don't know. Now, pause. We all know how to use the contact help section on Twitter, do we not? Where you can get more information. You can, give them if there's an email address or what your actual Twitter name was, and they can look into it. You can do that, right? I think you can. This is my opinion, my question. I know you can. So, in my opinion, how you didn't know who to contact, or you didn't have nobody to contact? But okay. So there was my latest Twitter. She says my latest Twitter got suspended. They claim I was impersonating myself. I tried to reach out. I hit a brick wall. So the words I'm hearing here, impersonating and invasion, they all seem like dishonesty words. Is that what they were saying? That you were misleading people by? And then she says, well, Miss Dixon chimes in and says, cause for speculation about what they're saying. And then she says, because I could explain to you what the situation is. I had my face on Instagram and my profile picture, and I was verified there. I was not verified on Twitter. So I had my personal picture and my Avi on Twitter. Court reporter requested clarification. Avi, which is AVI. That's what they call the profile picture. It was a picture of myself. And from me being harassed, fans went on Twitter. Megan Pete fan. I'll get y'all do some tea. Y'all listen to right. Y'all listen to. So what she's saying here is Megan Pete fans. I'm gonna sum it up. She's saying that Megan Pete fans reported her page. Okay, let's continue. That's just my assumption of what a little clarification. All right, let's continue. Because they publicly said this, and they went and reported my Twitter for impersonation of my verified Instagram. That should have never happened. So it should have never been suspended. It was suspended for me impersonating myself because I wasn't verified on Twitter. So they said, she's not the real MilagroGramz. And they got my page deleted. So I made another one. And they said, you evaded it. She says, I'm continuously saying you will not follow up with me. I sent my license. I sent my trademarks. I tried to talk to them for months. So the words invader, impersonation were used, but in understanding why, it's not really anything substantial or my wrongdoing. Are any of the suspensions of your Twitter or your Insta for reasons that you do understand? Do you know why they did it? And you agree you did whatever it is those suspended do you agree you did whatever it is those suspended you for? She says, I do not agree. He says, and whatever the reasons were, in each case, you say they were wrong? At no point in time have I agreed. No. Okay, I'm going to go back. In the beginning, we talked about making it easier for the court reporter. So you have to let me finish my question. She says, okay. And just leave a little space for her to catch up, of course. And then, have you made any attempt to understand what the rules are, say, on Twitter, in terms of what you can and cannot do? Yes. All right. And how did you do that? How did you figure out what's going on to get you suspended or not on Twitter? When I have gotten an email with an issue, I've looked into that particular situation. They have links that you can follow in a broad way, looking at all of their things. No, I don't know all their policies and stuff like that. I just know what they come to me with, and I've looked into that. Okay, so give me everything that you can remember on that. What's an example of an email you got from a social media platform that said you were about to be suspended for X, and you looked into it and got to the bottom of it? What's an issue they raised for you? Okay, the impersonation. I received an email saying that my Twitter was suspended for impersonation. That Avi was myself. So I knew that they were accusing me of impersonating myself. They said, if you think we made a mistake, follow up with this. And they have different verification tools. They may ask you to write a number on a piece of paper and take a picture of it. They have different things. She said, I can't recall all the different methods, but that's what I've done. I sent them an email with my license. I sent emails with my trademarks. I explained to them my own likeness. This is me. I'm not impersonating myself. Can I speak to someone? And when I went to read the rules on it at the time, and I didn't qualify. You didn't qualify for suspension? Well, for suspension. For a suspension. And ultimately, was the suspension lifted? No, because I never got a response. And at some point, you just said, gave up? I just gave up, yeah. Oh, okay. And when was the last time you had an active Twitter account? She says, I have an active Twitter account now. Y'all, there's some tea, y'all. There's some tea right here. There's some tea. Y'all listening? Y'all get into this tea. Y'all get some tea. So what she's saying is right now she has an active Twitter as of when she did this on July the 21st of 2025. She says she has an active Twitter. Y'all put that in your notebook. Write that down. Okay, let's continue. Okay, the suspension we've been talking about, the impersonation, that's on Instagram? No, that was Twitter. Twitter got suspended for impersonation, and then I made another one. Okay, and did that one get suspended very recently? Yeah, it got suspended. And what were the grounds that they stated as the reason you were suspended very recently? Evading suspension? Evading suspicion? Yeah, from impersonation. So you got impersonation, evading? Yeah, when Twitter suspends you, you are not supposed to make another Twitter account. And how did you know that? Once they told me in that email? All right. So you got suspended. You made a new account. They sent you an email saying, we know you just made a new account. You are still suspended? It was reported, and then, because I had the Twitter account for a while, it was mass reported. All right. So what was the handle on the old Twitter? The suspended one and the new one? There were various, she says there were variations of MilagroGramz. I don't know exactly what they were. You don't remember what your Twitter names was? Okay, let's continue. He says, what's your current one? It got suspended. It was the MilagroGramz. It was, or maybe Mob's World. I have to look. It was a variation of either MilagroGramz or Mob's World. All right. How many times have you total been suspended from social media platform? 2 or 3. And it's all on Twitter. One of my Instagram pages was suspended and reinstated. And my blog page has been suspended before. How many times? Just the blog? The blog, I believe, one time. And what was the stated reason? I don't know why it got suspended. Did they give you a reason? I don't recall. Okay, and that you said it was just one time and there was a reason. You can't remember? Right. And was it ultimately reinstated? No. I had to start fresh. And that's the one I have now. So rather than resolving whatever got you suspended, you just created a new account? Yeah. Or a new blog? Yes. All right. Now, what about Instagram? How many times have you been suspended there? Only once, I believe. And did you undo the suspension or just create a new account? I responded to their email, and way later, they reinstated it. So how long were you suspended on Instagram? I don't know how long I was without that page, honestly. More than a year? I don't believe it's more than a year, though. Several months. But it was a while. Yes. Yes, it was an extension. It was an extended period of time. And can you recall the stated reason? No, I don't know why. And they gave it back. That's the one I have now. Several months later. Yeah. And okay. So I have the blog, I have the Instagram. And then Twitter, you said what? 3 total suspensions? I don't know how many times I've been suspended on Twitter, but I mean, I would say about 2 or 3. Okay. And I heard impersonation and evasion. And what was the other one? That was it. And one of those 2 was the explanation they gave for each of your suspensions on Twitter. Yes. Okay. And in the case of Twitter, did you resolve any of the suspensions with them? Meaning they took it back? Or in each case, after a suspension, you just created a new account? I didn't resolve anything with them. I would try, and then I will make a new one. Now, pause. I do recall her. Oh, this was like last year sometime. She was trying to get a lot of people to go in because there was a link that she was sent. She was trying to get people to click on that link, but it wasn't sending people anywhere. I remember that time where she was trying to get that Twitter back. Well, one of her Twitters back. She posted the link and asked us to try to click on it because she couldn't get in. But anyway, let's continue. All right. So for what Twitter said about suspending your account, none of those ever got to the bottom of it? No. Okay, but you got to be back on Twitter just by using a new name? Yeah. Okay. How did your people know about that? You just said, I have a new Twitter? Yes. Okay. Excuse me, when it is convenient, I need to take a bio break. He says, okay, we can do that right now. Okay, so they took a break from 10:33 to 10:55. All right, let's get back into it. Mr. Sullivan says, thank you. Can you read me back the last question or just the last answer? The following record was read. And then the question was, okay, how did your people know about that? You just said, I have a new Twitter. The answer was yes. He says, okay. And other social media presence we haven't talked about? I don't think. She said, I don't believe so. Okay. Any other suspensions from social media that we haven't talked about? No. Okay. Have you ever heard any interaction with the criminal justice system other than studying it? No. Okay. Have you had any criminal prosecutions of you or arrest or anything like that? No. Okay. Let me quickly ask you. I think I asked this before. Did you do anything to prepare for your testimony today? To get ready to come here in terms of looking at things or talking to your lawyer? I looked at the complaint. Okay. And I looked at some of my responses to questions. What does that mean? Like those interrogatories? Interrogatory? Yes. Okay. Anything else? Not that I can think of. Did you meet with Rhonda? Yes. Okay. And when was that? Yesterday? Yesterday. How long did you guys spend together? A few hours. 3 hours, roughly? I could not say. Morning or afternoon? Afternoon. And where was that? At a restaurant. Okay. Did you guys have any documents that you looked at in that meeting? No. Okay. Other than Rhonda, did you talk to anybody else about your testimony today? The fact that you were going to take a deposition? Jeremy, my attorney. Uh-huh. And did you meet with him to go over whatever might come up today? Can you please be more specific? Sure. How long has Jeremy been your attorney? Since May, I believe. Now pause. We can go back to the paperwork. Now they had that status discovery call on June the 4th, correct? And it was that Friday, right? It was that Friday, right? When we got the documents online. So that would have been that Friday, June the 6th, right? Okay, that's just my opinion alone. But all right, let's continue. Okay, have you spoken to him about the fact that you are going to have your deposition taken? Yes. Okay, and did you guys make time to prepare together for the deposition? No. Okay, he left that to Rhonda, I assume, right? I want to make sure I'm clear. I was with Rhonda here physically. Yes. So I didn't speak to him then. Separately, he's spoken to me about what a deposition is. Okay, and that was prior to today, yes. Okay, and when you were talking to Jeremy about what a deposition is or what might come up, were you guys looking at documents together? Mr. Mc, I keep messing up his name. I used to say Mr. McLemont, but it's Mr. McLemont. Okay, so his name is Mr. Lemont. I'm going to object to this kind of question. It was a yes or no question. And then here go Mr. McLemont. All right, well, can I answer? Can I? Unintelligible, that doesn't get. And then that's when the court reporter says, I cannot hear what you're saying. Ms. Dixon says, oh boy. Okay, I'll just tell you the connection's a little jumbled. I think what you are saying is that I don't want her to talk about privileged information. And that is, I'm trying to ask it so I don't get to that yet. I just want you to know whether there are communications. Is by the way, is that Jeremy speaking? Mr. McLemont. I'm sorry, Mr. McLemont. Oh, anyway, let's continue. Yes, it is. Okay. So I'll ask it as a yes or no question. Did you, when you spoke with Jeremy about the deposition, was it in person or some other way? She says via a computer, like a Zoom or just she says Zoom, I believe. Okay. And during that, was there one session or more than one? I believe we had more than one session. Okay. And taking them all together, did you guys during any part of that look at documents from the underlying events? No. Didn't look at any emails or texts or web pages or anything like that? No. Okay. Other than your lawyers, have you talked to anybody else about, the fact that you are being deposed in this case? Yes. Okay. Just give me a list. Have you talked to Sunstar Peterson about your depot in this case? No. Y'all, there's some tea right here. There's some tea. So why? Okay, this is my opinion alone. It seems like they're about to get down to asking questions that they may know answers to. Now, if y'all do not recall, during that actual evidentiary hearing, they literally, at the end, requested and said that they were going to be subpoenaing her AT&T actual account. And if y'all do not recall, when I went over Caesar's deposition, they brought up just those transcripts from AT&T. But I don't know what this finna say next, so let's just keep going. Okay, who have you spoken to? I have spoken to Caesar McDowell. Did y'all hear? So during Milagro Depot, she just said she had spoken to Caesar McDowell. Now let's scroll back. So if y'all see here, he's actually having a conversation, and then that's when it was a chime in from Milagro's legal team. He was basically bringing up who has she spoken with. And now he's gotten to the point where he's just going down a list, I'm assuming. And she just said right there, I have spoken to Caesar McDowell. He then says, okay, who else? She said, that's all who I can recall at this time is Caesar. Here go Mrs. Dixon. Objection, though, regarding this deposition, just for clarification. The witness says, oh. She says, the question he asked was this deposition. She says, well, the date has been changed. Okay, well, I'm sorry. The question was just the fact that you are going to be given a deposition in this case. I was trying to figure out who you said, hey, this is going to happen. Who is in that circle? She says, right. Is Caesar in that circle? She says, it is specific to this deposition. He says, my question was specific to not this moment in time. The fact that you are being deposed regardless of when I was going to, when it was going to happen. She says, yes. He then says, okay, anybody else you've talked to about your deposition in this case besides Caesar? So pause. I need y'all to get y'all's notebooks out and y'all need to write this down. So he asked her, who has she spoken about pertaining to her deposition? She just gave an answer of Caesar. He didn't, that's when Rhonda chimed in, right? And then that's when she was like, well, the dates changed. And so he just said, my question was specific to not this moment in time, the fact that you are being deposed regardless of when it was going to happen. She says, yes. He says, okay, anybody else you've talked to about your deposition in this case besides Caesar? She then says, I don't recall. He says, your husband? She says, no, we don't. And then that's when he says, now I wish he would have let her talk. What she mean by that? Now y'all write this down. Y'all write this down. Y'all go back to this. This is page 80. She was finna get into something when he says, did she inform her husband? She said, no, we don't. And then that's when he cut her off. I wonder what she was finna say. Y'all write that down. Put it in your notebook. Put it in your binder. All right, let's continue. Does he know why you had to leave Houston? She says, right, yes. So let me say yes. In that way, yes. He says, okay, let me broaden it to this case in general. Okay, the case, Megan Pete against you. Who are the people in sort of your life, not your fans, people who you directly deal with, who you have spoken to about this case? She says, Caesar and Unite the People. Pause. Y'all remember yesterday when I was reading Caesar's deposition and he kept saying he don't know? Well, did Milagro just say something here? And that's my opinion alone. Okay, well, let's continue. And Caesar is from Unite the People? She says, yes, per my knowledge, he is over it. The court reported asked for clarification. She says, over it. I'm sorry. Over it? Like the head of, oh, okay. I'm sorry. It seemed like he has gotten over it. No, I'm not going to Unite the People anymore. I'm sorry. And then she said, oh, well, she says, I'm sorry. He says, all right. And how did you first meet Mr. McDowell? Caesar? Oh, girl, there's some T, y'all. There's some T right here. There's some T. Okay, so here we go again. She says, I met Caesar at the trial of Daystar Peterson. Now, again, we can go back to that picture that we all have. Remember from AT&T? Not a girl. Oh, let me strike that from this. ABC. I'm sorry, y'all. ABC. Do y'all remember that picture from ABC of all of them coming out the courtroom? And it shows Caesar giving dap to Tory when he had his child in his hand, and then you saw Milagro in that red dress. Okay, if y'all know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. All right, let's continue. Okay, and Daystar Peterson also goes by Tory Lanez, right? Yes. For ease of reference, I'm going to refer to him that way here. Okay, and what were the circumstances? So it was a connection with the trial? Were you introduced to Caesar by somebody? No, it was in a passing hi. And when you met him, did you have an understanding of what his role was there? Why was he there? No. Did he tell you what did he tell you he was doing there? We didn't discuss that. Okay. Tell me what you remember about the first conversation you had with Caesar. It was simple. Hi, my name is Milagro. Hi, I'm Caesar. It was just an introduction. Okay. And when was the next time you talked to him? I talked to him in passing in the hall during trial. Y'all, there's some tea right here. There's some tea. There's some tea. Y'all get some tea. So y'all write this down in your notebook now. Write it down in your notebook. All right. You saw each other around at the trial. When was the first time that you had like a real conversation? A significant conversation with him? Yeah. In 2023. And tell me everything you can remember about that conversation. We spoke briefly about him coming on an Instagram Live to explain some case updates. And in Instagram Live, tell me, how does that work? That's like what is it? It is, Instagram Live is something. You go on Instagram, you can stream essentially, pretty much. You set your camera up, and another person can call in, and you can accept the invite, and it would put two people on your screen. Okay, it would almost look like a talk show or something. It's two people going back and forth. Well, that's what he's asking her. She says, somewhat, yeah. He says, and is that something you do for the benefit of other people watching, or is it just like a phone call? It's for the public. Okay. And so you, in 2023, after you saw each other at the trial, you had a conversation about he wanted you to come on his and he would come on yours? No, he would come on my platform. Okay. And did you actually do that with him? Yes. All right. And that was at after the trial or during? After the trial? After. Uh what was after the verdict? He said, was that after the verdict? She says, yes. He says, all right. So you already knew there was a conviction, and he came on to talk about it. She says, yes. See, they catching Caesar up, y'all. If y'all was listening when I did the Caesar transcripts, he's asking specific questions. Now, if y'all don't recall, she did her deposition on the 21st, and I believe it's off of her answers. So when they asked him, he kept saying, I don't remember. Do y'all remember? But all right, let's continue. Okay, and other than the fact that Caesar was attached to Unite the People, did you have an understanding of what his interest in the case was? What his background was? No. What was he there? Well, you had the live feed on Instagram, right? With him? Yes. How long did it last? I wouldn't say more than an hour. And what did you talk about? I don't know what case update did you. Yes. How many altogether if you had? Okay, and where the other was the one after the verdict, the very first one, recent one. When is the last time you did one with him, Caesar? Over 6 months ago. It's been a while. And why did you stop doing them? Can y'all see the screen? I see it buffering. If y'all can let me know if y'all see the screen. I do see y'all's comments. Can y'all see the screen? I just saw it refresh. I just want to make sure y'all can still see. Okay, well, y'all not saying that. I'm gonna continue. I wouldn't say there was never a conversation about stopping or da 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 da. Y'all see it right here. It says it. Da 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 da. But anyway, it's just hasn't happened, I would say. In your mind, why do you stop doing them? Like, was there no more material? In my mind, it wasn't something that it progressed in a way that I needed to be reporting on certain things. You didn't think it was going to produce more helpful content for your presence? No. I didn't feel as though there had been a significant update for me to report on. Oh, okay. You were saying there wasn't really any update? Right. Anything to talk about in the case? Right. Was the update? He wasn't a guest on any other subjects. No, he he was he simply talked about the appeal. Is he Caesar a lawyer? Not to my knowledge. And after all those case updates, did you come to have an understanding of what he brought to the table? Why? Why was he commenting on this case? I couldn't speak to all the reasons why, Mrs. Dixon. I'm going to eject because it causes speculation. But he says, well, I only want what you know. So did anybody tell you, including Caesar, why he had a personal interest in this case? To Tory Lanez? Not that I know of. And when is the most recent time you were in touch with Caesar? 6 months ago? No, it was more recent than that. I would say April, Mayish. Okay, and you were, was that about doing another case update or something else about the case? All of my intentions with him at that point were about my case strictly. All right, and what was his role? What was his role in your case? He is no longer a person affiliated with my case. I didn't hear the end. He's no longer a person of what? Affiliated with my case. Okay, before he was no longer affiliated, meaning when he was affiliated, what was his role? How was he helping you or working with you? Caesar propositioned me to represent me pro bono, for Unite the People to represent me pro bono. So my understanding was that Unite the People was representing me, and he would handle anything that had to do with lawyers, enlisting lawyers, anything about my case. He was my point of contact. I was to speak to him and pay him. And pay him, you said? Eventually, it turned into that, yes. And when did that idea first get discussed between you and Caesar? So you were doing the case updates. It's about Tory's case. And then at some point, you were in this case with Megan. And that conversation where he propositioned you about being pro bono, but that put that in the calendar. Was it 2024, 2025? I was served in October of 2024. And within days, he had reached out to me to ask to represent me. Okay. And you told me you don't know whether he is a lawyer, right? Right. Okay, now y'all pause right there. Does it sound like the questioning that he is saying is lining Caesar up for something? If y'all don't recall, I should have her first and then did Caesar's, because then it would have made more sense. But now that we're going back and we're listening, and as I'm reading, and majority of these questions, to in my knowledge, my opinion, he's asking for a reason and then turned around and asked Caesar, and then Caesar played those, I don't recall, answers and played dumb. But okay, let's continue. And did you have any an understanding when he was reaching out to you, one way or another, whether he was the lawyer he was going to provide to you? She says, I honestly did not. She says, I didn't have a real understanding of all the inner workings, to be honest. I mean, did he say he was going to go to court for you or appear in your case? Or did he say, I'll find someone or something else? Caesar just told me that Unite the People wanted to represent me pro bono. And that brings, and he said, and that things will be handled. Now, pause. If y'all do not recall, he kept, well, not he, but Miss Hayapetian She kept asking questions along the lines of, is Tory paying for Milagro's legal fees? Yeah, I remember that. And he kept saying, I don't recall. And that's when they kept chiming in saying objection, speculation. Okay, let's continue. Okay, and did you agree to that? She says yes. And did you have an understanding of what your side of the bargain was? Like, she says yes. And tell me what that was. She says, to be cooperative. Now, pause. Her side of the bargain was to be cooperative. Is that what he asked? And she said to be cooperative? Y'all, look, let me do some tea. Y'all, some tea right here, some tea. Y'all get y'all's binder out and write this down. Write this down in y'all's binder. He said, and did you have an understanding of what your side of the bargain was? She says to be cooperative. With who? With the lawsuit in general. My role was to, when I was asked to produce something or we needed a meeting, I was to be present and do my part. He says, okay, so just cooperating in your own defense? She says, right. Which you would have done anyway, right? Of course. And then you said something about paying him back eventually. He says, no. When did that come up? When Caesar stole my money.
That was juicy.
Oh, girl. Did y'all hear that? She said when Caesar stole my money. He says, tell me about that. She then says, the contract was for pro bono representation. Caesar came to me and said, I need money for your lawyer. And if you don't figure something out, you're going to have a lawyer. You're not going to have a lawyer because I can't do it. All right. So you said your contract called for pro bono. Was that written? Yes. Contract? Yes. You still have that? I have to look. He says, we asked you to produce that. Ms. Dixon says, okay, well, I might object to that because it might be privilege. That's her attorney. He says, it's a contract. That's an operative document. She says, I understand, but it's just like he says, take it under advisement. I'll ask you to produce that if you decide it's not privilege. She says, okay. Is that contract for anything other than to represent you? She says, no. He says, and you signed that contract? Yeah. She says, yes. And who signed it for the other party? She said, I believe Caesar signed it. All right. And that's a contract between Milagro and Unite the People? To my knowledge, yes. When is the last time you looked at it? When it was presented to me in November of 2024. Okay, and did you talk to a lawyer about signing that? No. Did you talk to anybody about whether you should sign that besides Caesar? I believe I spoke publicly on my show about the fact that this proposal had been made and you were going to go with it? Yes. Did you do any investigations of who? Now, pause. Who in their right mind would take up legal representation and not even attempt to do any type of investigations as to their success rate, as to the rate of them losing cases, as into looking into their bio, their background? You didn't bother looking up nothing. You just blindly signed the papers. Now, that's my opinion alone. She says no. He says, I mean, you are entrusting your legal defense to them, right? Yeah, right? It's a big step. You don't make any investigations as to why they were involved, what their motives were. See, I just posed this question, and here he is, almost in the same sentiments of what I'm asking. It seems like he's now asking her. You didn't make any investigation as to why they were involved, what their motives were. She says no. Did they tell you what their motives were? Caesar said that he of created not unite the people to help people like me that he believed were bullied and taken advantage of. And did he give you examples of people other than you he had helped? Like, were they doing this for the first time with you or for years? Okay, pause. That was being asked to Caesar. You see how they're trying to establish what was the reason that you took on Milagro Elizabeth Cooper. I thought y'all helped the people who are unprivileged so much as far as trying to overturn convictions. You see why he asked that in the beginning, right? But let's continue. Okay, so it was my understanding. This is Milagro now. It was my understanding that the foundation was built on helping people in that way. But were you aware of any examples where they had done that in other case before? Well, in another case before. She says, not in my, not in a case like mine, but yes. Ooh, excuse me. And what, in other words, something made you think this is a good idea? Did they tell you we've been successful for some other people in this kind of circumstance? She says, no. Did you think they had any expertise in dealing with this situation? She says, I did once I spoke with them. And what did they tell you that made you think they had expertise in this? Well, at this. She says, once I spoke to the lawyers and they explained the lawsuit and he says, I don't want you to tell me your conversation with the lawyer. So I'm going to be careful because your lawyer asked me that, and that's fair. She says, okay. So I'm going to ask you some more questions about the conversations. And if you're having a lawyer-client conversation and there's no other people, including maybe Caesar, then that will be privilege or could be privilege. So it sounds like they put you in touch with an actual lawyer, right? At some point? Yes. Who was that? Walter. Do y'all not remember Walter from last night when I was reading Caesar's deposition? Y'all should know that name very well. But anyway, let's continue. He says, okay. She says, I don't know his last name at the time. And a man named Michael Hayden. The last name? Hayden. Hayden. Okay, and did Walter and Michael eventually become your lawyers? She says Michael Hayden did. He says, okay, and without telling me what was discussed, you were put in touch with Michael Hayden. And at the end of that, you said, yes, I'm going to work with these people. Yes. And the time you did that, you understood based on your contract that it was going to be pro bono, right? Yes. And at later sometime, you told me Caesar stole your money. Yes. So walk me from when you started with Michael to that. It was supposed, she said it was supposed pro bono. It was supposed pro bono. That's how it's written here on the document. Caesar told me because of Unite the People's role that I needed to pay him directly. I started a campaign on Give, Send, Go. I withdrew the money and I sent it to Caesar via Zelle in increments. I had sent maybe about $9,000. Michael A. Pensier, who was my Florida attorney, has reached out to me. And then she chimed in, Mrs. Dixon, anything that's privilege And he says, yeah, your lawyer is concerned. So I think we can get what we need here without getting into what they said to you. So let me just get transactional. She says, okay. So at some point, Caesar, who is not a lawyer, reaches out and says, whatever it was before you, whatever it was before now, you have to pay, right? I need money for lawyers. Did a conversation about the fact that it wasn't the deal? She said, absolutely. And tell me about that conversation. In person or on the phone? She says, on the phone. And what did you say? And what did he say? I told him that I felt really abandoned. And I was upset because I was supposed to be pro bono. I told him I would try as much as I could, but that was pretty much of it. He basically told me it takes money. You need to find some money. Okay. And did you have an understanding as to whether United People had other sources of money to help you? No, I had no idea about that. When they first proposed representing you pro bono, did you have an understanding of how they were going to pay the lawyers? Not at all. Did you have an understanding of who funded them generally? No. Did you know anybody who was a donor at United People? No. Other than this money through Zelle for the lawyers, did you ever make donations to Unite the People? No. Pause. I gotta pause real quick. Who was in that Instagram live when Caesar came on? Now, my memory is sharp, but I vaguely remember about donations. Maybe I could be wrong. Now, this is my opinion alone. Do y'all remember something like that? If you do, if you don't, I think I'm not too sure, too certain. This is my opinion alone. But I think there was a conversation about donations, if I'm not mistaken, because people, if I'm not mistaken, were trying to figure out a way to donate on that live. Anyway, my opinion alone. Let's continue. Do you know who the principal members are at Unite the People? No. Do you know any members of Unite the People? Caesar McDowell, Michael Hayden, Walter, and Michael Hayden and Walter, the lawyers, are members of Unite the People? I believe so. Okay. Anybody else who has attached to Unite the People besides, anybody else who was attached to Unite the People besides Caesar and Michael and Walter? There have other people in their office that I've spoken to, but I don't know. I don't know their names or exactly who they are. And where is their office? I've never been to it, but I believe it's in California. All right. And tell me everything you can about what Unite the People was doing before they offered to be your lawyer. Like, what did you know? That's a big step. What did you know about them in the real world? My only point of reference with Unite the People was the association with Tory Lanez case. All right. And what did you understand with that association? That Unite the People was in some form of fashion working on an appeal. Are we good? She says it's getting feedback. Yeah, there was an echo. Is there an echo? Is it gone? I think it's gone. Okay. And did you think Unite the People was connected in any way with Tory Lanez's camp? Can you be more specific? I was going to object as being overbroad. So yeah. Well, I'm starting broad and then I'll narrow it down. Are you aware of any connection whatsoever between Tory Lanez's team and Unite the People? No. Do you think they're unrelated? Because I thought you told me the reason you knew about them and their prior work was because they were involved with Tory Lanez's appeal. But you just asked me about a group. You said Tory Lanez group. I'm asking you two things. Does Unite the People have anything to do with Tory Lanez? Yes, as per my understanding, they're working on an appeal for Tory Lanez. All right. So tell me everything you know about any connection between or work between United People and anyone attached to Tory Lanez. The only thing I'm aware of is the Tory Lanez case and documents that were filed after the verdict. What documents were filed after the verdict? I do not know the names of the documents, but the things that were filed to help with the appeal, whatsoever. Well, hold on, let me make sure I didn't see. Okay. Whatever those different documents are that were submitted to the court. Okay. And do you know who those lawyers were? No. They weren't the same lawyers as the ones that were helping you. I don't know. Okay, so you understand that United People was involved in the appeal? Yes. Tory Lanez appealed his conviction? Yes. Maybe the motion for a retrial. All I know is about the appeal for sure. Okay, have you ever discussed United People or their work with Tory Lanez, Dad? Yes. How many times? How many times has that come up in your conversations? Y'all give me 1 second. Let me take a sip of drink. Lord have mercy. Okay, so anyway, sorry about that. All right, so let's continue. She says yes. He says, how many times? How many times has that come up in your conversations? Only a few, I would say. Okay, and when was the first time you communicated in any way with Tory Lanez's dad? In 2020. Okay, I'm going to call him Sunstar. Is that okay? That's his name, right? Yes. Is that what you call him? Yeah, Sunstar. No, you called him Daddy. We all know of you calling him Daddy. But anyway, let me continue. Okay, because there's two Mr. Petersons. What were the circumstances when you first communicated with Sunstar? Sunstar sent me a message on Instagram. You said that was in 2020? I believe so. And what did the message say? I don't recall. Generally, what it got your attention. What did you do after you got that message? I responded in some form or fashion. I don't recall what I said. What was the subject matter? My show. And in terms of the Tory Lanez case and the shooting and all of that, when was this? Was this after? This was after. Okay, and Tory Lanez, had he already been arrested? Could you be specific? Because I believe there was. I'm just trying to know what was going on when this guy reached out to you. Like, in relation to what we know was the incident, the case. At the time he reached out to me, I do not believe there had been an arrest yet or anything like that. Okay, and when he reached out to you, well, what's the first substance you can remember talking about with Sunstar? You told me you can't remember his first IG message. You can't remember your response? No, not verbatim. He was just a fan of my show. He liked my show. Okay, so he reached out like a lot of people do and said, I love what you're doing. Maybe something to that effect, but I don't recall. Maybe something what? Maybe something to that effect, but I couldn't recall. Was he trying to connect with you to have further conversations? I don't recall. I believe it was simple. I like your show, maybe. Chill. All right, let's continue. Okay, if you were to start there and fast forward all the way to today, how many conversations have you had with Sunstar? I could not give you an approximate answer. Less than 5? More than 5? More like 10? That would just be difficult. I have literally no idea how often how many times I've spoken to him. I mean, we've looked at the files. It's probably hundreds, right? I don't know. Are you in a position right now to say it wasn't that many? I don't know. You can't distinguish between whether it was 5 or 10 or 100. No, because then I would be giving you a number. Child. Okay, let's go. She says no, because I will be giving I will just be giving you a number. He says, well, I don't want you to be precise, but I want you to say what you would say if you were pressed on it, which is, I want you to do the best you can. Is it more than 10,000? I don't know. You do know. You were on them, right? She says more than 100. Okay, more than 100 over what period of time? 3, 4 years? 5 years? 5 years. That's what she says, 5 years. Okay. And how would the two of you communicate? Phone call? Yes. Did you guys do other things? Zooms or any of these other formats? No. Okay. And how would you describe the reason you had all these conversations? Why were you talking so much? Because of the role that he ultimately occupied. I'm sorry, y'all, occupied. I feel in my life as a father figure and mentor. So there she is admitting that he appeared to be a father figure in her life. Now, for some of those who were present, y'all would already have known that. But let's continue. Okay, so you said father figure and mentor. She says, Chap, what was he mentoring? Now that's a question. That's my opinion alone. That's a question. What was he mentoring you on? Okay, let's continue. And when did you first start thinking of Sunstar as a father figure or a mentor? Like, when did it get to the point where you thought of him that way? Sunstar came. Okay, you got it. There's some tea right here. There's some tea, y'all. There's some tea right here. So we got some tea right here, y'all. Sunstar came to Houston for a visit. It was after that. Is that still probably during 2020? No. Maybe 2021. Maybe. How does it compare to where the case was? To the Tory Lanez case? Was he awaiting trial? No. This was like in 2021, maybe. So no. Okay, all right. So a Sunstar comes up to Houston and tell me about what he says, whatever interaction you had with him on that trip. I believe I did. I did a show, and then me, my husband, and my children spent the day essentially with him. So he appeared on your show? Not on that occasion, no. Okay, you did a show. Tell me what that was. Routine. I literally just did a regular show that day. And when I got done, we went and had a day out. Oh, but Sunstar wasn't on the show? No, it wasn't about him at all. I just literally, it was a word day. What you mean it was a word day? Okay, but let's continue. It just happened to be what you were doing that morning? She says, yeah. And then you did something later in the day with your family and him? And what did you guys do? We chit-chatted and went to dinner. Okay, and you think this was probably in 2021? What was it in your interactions with him? Well, starting with that, when was it that you started thinking of him like a mentor or father figure? Was it something in that first dinner? Or by then you were already getting there? Per our phone conversation. And I think that it was more solidified once we got to spend more time with each other with the family. Y'all, there's some tea, right? There's some tea right here. Y'all, there's some tea. So this is when she's talking about, what do you mean it became more solidified when y'all spent some time with each other with the family? Now, is she mean, okay, we're going to continue. I was finna jump the gun, but I see it right here. He says, she says, my family. Okay, so that answers my question. All right, so let's continue. And other than the Tory Lanez case, what were the areas that you guys spent time talking about? We talked about faith. We talked about different things I may be going through. Very faith-based, I would say. Very what? Faith-based, I would say. And is he a minister of some kind? I believe so. I mean, do you share the same? Are you the same religion as him? Yes. Okay, and what was in that religion? Christian, Baptist. We believe in God. Now, pause. If she believes in Christian Baptists, this is a question that I have. Has Millie ever talked about going to church? When have we heard of her going to church? Now that's my opinion and my question. Have y'all ever heard of her speaking about, okay, this Sunday we going to church and we finna get out of church? That's my opinion and my question, right? All right, let's continue. And so you guys bonded over that, I guess. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And all right. The how much of the hundreds of conversations over the years you have kind of mentoring in that general, how much of what you talked about was actually kind of related to the Tory Lanez situation? Where he is, how he gets out of there, that kind of stuff. It was more limited, actually. That topic was more limited. Yes. You talked about other things more than that. Absolutely. Okay. What were those other things? Faith, you said, right? Right. I have 2 children. So, and he chimed in and said yes. And then she continued. Sunstar has 2 younger children who are about the ages of my 2 children. So that's another talking point. That's it. Day-to-day things, honestly. Did you talk with him at any time in this stretch about how you were going to finance your legal defense? No. Were you still in touch with Sunstar when Caesar was saying you were going to have to come up with some money? No. I stopped communicating with him. When did you stop communicating with Sunstar? Once I was served with the lawsuit. Now pause. Now y'all put this in your notebook. Put this in your notebook now. Y'all write this down. All right, let's continue. Yes, with this lawsuit. So, like October of last year, yes. And those decisions. And whose decision was it that to stop, communicating? She says, mine. You? Did you reach out and say to him, I'm not going to communicate with you anymore? No. You just stopped? Yes. Did he reach out and say, hey, you are not calling anymore? What's going on? She says, yes. And you said what? Nothing. You just didn't respond? Right? You've never communicated to him a reason why you stopped being in touch? No. Even though he was a father figure, a mentor, close, religious bonding, you just cut him off? Yes. And what would you say your reasoning for that is? Because of the accusations against me per the lawsuit. Explain that to me. I was being accused of essentially colluding with him. I did not want to add to that, so I stopped communication. You thought if you continue to be in touch with him, people will continue to say you were colluding with him? Yes. To get these messages out? Yes. All right. Have you had any contact with him since then? With Sunstar? Yes. All right. Tell me that. How many times? Only maybe once or twice. And you in your mind at least, you seize the communications. When you got the lawsuit because you didn't want people to say you were colluding, right? But you still had 1 or 2 interactions after that, right? More recently. And what were the circumstances? Well, first of all, how many were there? How many times have you interacted with Sunstar post the filing of this lawsuit? Probably less than 3. Okay, and when is the most recent one? I don't recall. Best you can do? A couple of months ago. I mean, there's only October to now, right? So she says probably July. Okay, maybe in July. And tell me. She says not in July. I said it is July now. You said it was October. I'm saying the period we're talking about is between October and July, right? Right. And you had 3 interactions somewhere in there. That's your testimony, right? Right. It was in more recent months, though, in 2025, that I've had a chat with him. Okay, and can you separate out the 2 or 3 calls in your head? Were they different subject matters? No, they were all the same thing. So you made a decision you're not going to be in touch with him. Who initiates contact the first time post the filing of this lawsuit? I could say somebody called somebody or reached out. Right. Me and Sunstar, I got the lawsuit and we spoke to Caesar like on a call together. Y'all, excuse me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. He says, okay, well, all right. You just told me you didn't want to be interacting with Sunstar because you didn't want to feed those allegations of collusion, right? Right. So what made you move past that and say, oh, I'll get on the call with him and Caesar? I was, I got on a call with him and Caesar because I was accused by the blogs of receiving a certain amount of money from him. And Caesar, I wanted to talk to Caesar and the lawyer about it. And I think they patched him in or something. Sunstar. Was Caesar trying to get Sunstar to contribute to your fees? No. I think that he wanted to understand the alleged payments. At this point, has Caesar already said, if you don't come up with some money, we're not going to be your lawyers? No. So you are still a pro bono client of Caesar's and Unite the People. Yeah. I would have to, I don't know the exact dates on that, but I believe I was already with Unite the People and they were representing me pro bono. Okay. At that time, and did Caesar ask to be able to talk to Sunstar or vice versa? I don't recall. All right. What was said? What did they talk about once the 3 of you got together? It was something about payments. Tell me what you can remember Caesar saying and Sunstar saying and you saying. Caesar said that, or I believe that I sent some screenshots of some blogs running an exclusive that I had received some money from Sunstar. And so when he got on a call, I sent a text explaining what they were about. A text to Caesar? Yeah. I sent a text to Caesar. Who so I guess you saw people out there saying you were getting money from Sunstar, yeah? And then Sunstar wanted to talk to you about what was really going on. Is that right? Right. Okay, and then you wanted to put Caesar with Sunstar to get to the bottom of it? No. I believe Caesar wanted to include Sunstar or maybe get 2 perspectives, but I couldn't speak for him. Okay. And on that conversation, did you guys talk about whether money had exchanged hands between Sunstar and you over time? Yes. Okay. And do you remember the amounts that you were talking about? I remember the overall amount. And what was the overall amount? Okay, y'all, this is what we seen months ago, right? 3,000. Okay, and people in the blogs were saying that the money flowed from Sunstar to you, and they were saying that was to advance the message of the Tory Lanez situation. Yes. And you say, I think that no, it was for something else, right? Yes. Okay, and it was, what was it again? Birthday gifts? You have to outline and then I could speak to it better. That's what she says. You would have to outline and then I could speak to it better. Why do you have to do that? But okay. Okay, other than birthday gifts for your kids, can you think of any reason why Sunstar will be giving you money? Yes. So I know all the reasons why he gave me money. I don't know the exact amount. Oh, just tell me the reasons. Okay, there was an occasion where he sent me birthday money. My birthday is, and for those of y'all that know, we already know what her birthday date is. But anyway, let's continue. Okay, and did he do that once or more than once? He did that once. And how does that tie into how long you had known him at that point? I couldn't say. Maybe I couldn't say. It was years ago, not long. All right. And that was the first time he ever sent you money? I believe so. And was it Zelle or Vimo? It was Zelle. All right. And were you surprised? A lot of other people sent you cash that day. She said yes. Okay. So did you have, well, I asked you the question. Were you surprised that Sunstar sent you money on your birthday? I don't know if that's the objective. Surprised. Were you expecting it when he came? No. Well, when it came, no. Okay, after it came, did you talk to him about having sent that money? I believe I thanked him. Okay, and how much was that first birthday payment? I don't know the exact amount. It was a few hundreds though. Okay, and you said other people sent money. Were you were you fundraising for your birthday? My fans sent me money for my birthday as a gift. Okay, and she says every year. He says, okay, all right. So you had this first conversation with Caesar and Sunstar to talk about how Sunstar payments to you are being categorized, basically, right? Yes. And I think you said there was two more conversations between the filing of the lawsuit and how, other than that, one about money. And what else did you talk about? Well, did you talk to Sunstar about? I had a disagreement with the family member. Tell me everything you know about that. Who is the family member? Y'all listening to some tea right here. Some tea. Y'all listen. Y'all listen to some tea. She says, my sister. Okay. And what was the nature of the disagreement? Girl, she talking about me, Sean, y'all. Girl, she done put me, Sean, in these court documents, girl.
Ooh, that was juicy.
Girl, that was juicy. Oh, okay, we finna get it. We get some tea, y'all, some tea. All right, y'all, let's go. It's just a really tense situation because my biological father is dead and paternity has been established now, but it wasn't prior to his death. So there's just a lot of issues with paternity. Basically, it's caused a strain in our relationship. It affects how, you know, and what was your sister's name? Do y'all see that there? Michonne.
Ooh, that was juicy.
Michonne. Meshawn. I'm going to object regarding relevance. I'm not, he says, I'm not going to do much on this. I just want to understand the Sunstar's angle. Did Sunstar know your sister, Michonne? No. But you, because it was kind of dramatic, you were saying this guy is a mentor and a father. And then you decided to just stop communication, right? Uh-huh. You told me when the lawsuit was filed, you made that decision. Yeah. Now, if y'all don't pay attention, just read his verbiage. Now, this is my opinion alone. Do y'all feel like he's painting a picture?
Ooh, that was juicy.
Do y'all feel like he's painting the picture? But yeah, I'm gonna let y'all think about that. But okay. So let's continue. You told me when the lawsuit was filed, you made that decision, yeah? Yeah. Because you didn't want the appearance of colluding. But then you were willing to have a conversation with him about the money issue. Yeah? Yes. And now you were willing to have a conversation with him about some tension with your sister. Yeah. And what did you think Sunstar could do to help with your sister? It was more for me. Like I said, our relationship was really faith based. So I was feeling really low. And it's something that weighs on me a lot. So I really wanted encouragement. Now, pause. Now, who was on StationHead around that time when she went live about the whole situation and then sat up there and allowed her chat to not only cuss out Michonne, but to talk about Michonne like a dog? Who was in that StationHead that saw that? But now you're saying in your deposition, you felt really low and needed encouragement. So you reached out to Sunstar? That's my opinion alone, but let's continue. Okay, and how much time did you spend talking to Sunstar or communicating with him about that situation with your sister? Not too long. It wasn't a long conversation. Like one call, yeah. That's what the subsequent calls were about. The two subsequent calls were both about your sister, about my life issues and feeling low and then navigating that. Yeah. Pause. Milagro, where's your family members at? Now, this is my opinion and my opinion alone. This is my personal experience. If I am feeling low or anything like that, don't anybody, wouldn't you have a conversation with your own family about that? I mean, you do have a husband, correct? If your spouse is not able, and this just goes to show and paints the whole picture. If I'm feeling low about something, wouldn't I go to my spouse? My spouse, it would be spousal support, right? Why would I not have that conversation with my spouse? A husband. You have a husband. Why were you not having a conversation with him? You have other family members, and I'm pretty sure you have other friends that you could have a conversation with. But you, okay, but that's my opinion alone. But let's get to it. Do you think you'll be communicating in the future with Sunstar about your sister's situation? Me and my sister are in a better place. So hopefully it will be more positive. It won't come up again. Okay. Same kind of questions for Tory Lanez. When was the first time you communicated with Tory Lanez? 2020. And what were the circumstances? His message was on Instagram. It was just like a, yo, hit me, I believe. And where was that? Was that before the shooting? After? After, okay. Before the trial? Yes. All right. And were you already out talking about the case? Yes. And when he said, yo, hit me, he said, was that on Instagram? Yes. And was that a response to something you had already posted? No. Just out of the blue? Yes. Okay. And how did you respond to that? I followed up with a phone call, or excuse me, I believe I sent my phone number. I believe I sent my phone number to him and his father. And prior to him saying, yo, hit me, you had no communication with him? No. Did you know him? No. You never met him? No. Did you know of him? Yes. Because of his celebrity of the music business. Yes. And so out of the blue, he puts on Instagram, yo, hit me, and you send him your phone number? He sent in a private message. Yes. Okay. Do you have any understanding now of why he picked you out to contact? No, because I don't think I was exclusive. I don't think I was special. Well, she said, I don't think it was special. All of the people in the world, why did he, objection, speculation? I couldn't say. Huh? I couldn't say. Well, once you followed up, did you ever ask him, why did you reach out to me? I did not ask. You didn't ask? Okay, let's continue. You don't even know today why, of all the people in the world he could have reached out to, he picked you that day? No, I don't know. And without knowing that, you are okay just sending him your phone number? Well, yeah, uh-huh. Okay, what happened next in the communication history of Milagro and Tory Lanez? Did he call you? His father called me. Okay, and tell me what was said on that call. His father called me, and then Tory called at the same time. So we ended up on a three-way call. Me, Tory, and Sunstar. I'm going to give a hearsay objection, but you can still answer. Okay, that's an evidentiary objection for trial. By coincidence, Tory and his dad called you at the same time? Yeah. I was on the line with Sunstar, and then, yeah, moments later, Tory. All right. So you ended up on a three-way call with the both of them? Uh huh. And tell me everything you can say about that conversation. What Tory said, what his father said, and what you said. Tory was occupied. I don't know what he was doing, but it was a lot of movement. So he didn't say much. He just said, "Hey," and his father made mention of the fact that what did he say, that he had watched my show and they thought it was funny that different people around them had watched it, and they realized that they all had been watching it, and they kind of came together. He said, "Oh, you watched that too? You watched that too? That two type of thing?" So it was a joke. And then situation, and Daystar, Tory had to get off the phone. And so me and Sunstar, he prayed at that time on the phone, and then we got off the call. And then this is when Sullivan chimes in. Was Tory free at that point? Yes. Was he in jail? No, he was free. Okay. This was in 2020. That's what Milagro says. He says, all right. And so Tory was on bail. Do you remember anything that Tory said on the call? It wasn't much. Like I said, he came on and he said, "Hey, and shout out to you," you know. But like I said, he was really occupied. So it was more so me and his father. And his father initiated the call. So, but Tory kind of initiated the whole thing by saying, "Yo, hit me up," right? Right? All right. And you can't remember anything substance that he said in the call? Right. No, honestly. But his dad, said he is in a bad situation and let's pray. No. I said I said that I hated the situation that they were in or that he was in. Now pause. There is someone, well, survive. I gotta hit you up, girl. Let me hit you up, girl. But don't we not have that audio clip where she was saying that Tory was guilty when this whole thing first came out? Did she or did she not come online saying that Tory was guilty? And did she or did she not say if he gave her some money, she would change her perspective of him? We got the audio clip. She said this on StationHead, and we got the audio clip. Okay, let's continue. And he said, yeah, God will work it out. And then he was going to pray. He said, let's pray. All right. And did you have any connection whatsoever to the underlying events of Tory's criminal case, like the shooting? You weren't there? No. All right. From your criminal adjust studies, do you know what a percipient witness is? Somebody who saw whether the light is green or different than an expert witness. Do you know what that is? Okay, I'm just asking. I think I know the answer, but you are not a witness. You weren't a witness in the Tory Lanez criminal case, were you? No. And you are not saying you personally observed anything that happened there, are you? No. You don't have any personal knowledge that would be relevant to that, whether he did or did not, right? No. Now pause. Read that again. You don't have any personal knowledge that would be relevant to that, whether he did it or not. Now pause. Wasn't she the one on StationHead? We got the audio clip where she said that he called her and how she had that phone next to her and she pulled out her MacBook and she was writing word for word what he was telling her. And she said, I could have been a court reporter. She said that he was writing. I was like, yeah, Do y'all not recall that? We have the audio recording. But okay, let's continue. Okay, prior to talking to Tory and his dad after you were already familiar with the case and the underlying events, yeah? Yes. And how, let me come back to that. I want to ask you what your sort of sources of knowledge are about the case. But first, in terms of communications, where both you and Tory are on talking together, you had that first call where also dad is on. How many times through today have you later talked to Tory? Less than 10, I'd say. Okay. Less than 10 over 5 years? Yeah. Okay, and when was the most recent time? He sent me a happy birthday DM on Instagram. Well, his Instagram page did. I can't say it was him. Okay, and that was for this past birthday? And then we all know when her birthday is, but it's redacted. Of 2024? 2024, yeah. Okay, and so his Instagram did something. How about an actual interaction where you were in real time either texting or talking to him? When is the most recent time? I don't recall. Was it in 2024? I'd have to look. I don't know. Well, the last time you actually, so you had at least, you said 10 conversations where you talked. What was talked about the last time you guys actually communicated in real time? The last thing I remember that is significant is when I went to Miami to interview his father. Or I'm sorry, no. Trial was after that. So I would say trial was the last significant talk we had. Okay. What was during? He said, was that during the trial? She said, in person on the phone, in person at the courthouse. Okay, so he is there for his trial. You were there, and you guys were talking in the courthouse. Yeah, just in the lobby or in the lobby. I spoke to him, and then on the last day of trial, he came up and said something to me. What did he say? It was like a greeting type of thing, like, hey. Now pause. If y'all were present during the trial of let me get it correct. It was the state of California versus Tory Lanez. Everybody keeps saying it's Megan Thee Stallion versus Tory Lanez. No, it wasn't. It was the state of California versus Tory Lanez. Megan Thee Stallion just so happened to have been a key witness to that case. But let's keep it a bean. Who was on StationHead? Because we got the recordings. I know I got the recordings. We have the recordings of her bragging, talking about she wasn't part of the media. She was going in with the family. And then she kept sitting up there talking about she was the sister to Tory Lanez. Do y'all remember that? Because we have the recordings. But anyway, let's continue. What words came out of his mouth? It wasn't a conversation. He literally walked up to me and said, hey, and he gave me a hug. It was the last day before the verdict was read. So I don't know what was behind it. Now, pause. We're going to keep going back to that ABC photo and video that was broadcasted of all of them coming out of court together. Even Caesar with that poster in his hand. And she was in that background wearing that red dress. Do y'all remember that? Okay, let's continue. So there was no communication, right? There wasn't a conversation like that. Now pause. Do y'all not recall that black Tahoe that she got into? Mm, that black and white dress. Mm. Okay, let's continue. Right. There wasn't a conversation like that. No. But he gave you a hug? Uh-huh. Okay, at that point, how many times had you guys you probably had 10 conversations by that point, by the time trial started? Yeah. Because after that, he was in jail. Yes. And you weren't able to talk to him while he was in jail? Well, like I said, I got a message from his Instagram. So that was from my birthday last year. Okay. So it sounds like the last interaction, the last day of trial, there wasn't much substance there. When was the last time you had an actual back and forth where words were spoken? That's when I was saying in the Miami, and then he cut off and said, okay, and tell me, when was that? As best as you can place it on the calendar. She says maybe 2023, maybe 2022, 2023. I'm not certain. For the trial? Prior to the trial, yes. Okay, see, pause. Remember, we got a video. We got a y'all got that picture. It's on Lipstick Alley. See, they got all the tea. Y'all shout out to Lipstick Alley. If y'all head on over to Lipstick Alley, they got tea when she was in that it was either a hotel or a motel. She was in the bed and they had that big old mirror above the bed and how she was taking the picture. Mm. And then if y'all don't recall, look at the original complaint and then the amended complaint. If y'all go on there and take a look, you will see where she had taken a picture with Daddy. They was at the restaurant. They was taking pictures. That's what she had posted on Instagram. That was a part of the complaint and the minute complaint. But okay, let's continue. Okay, and she says prior to the trial, he says okay, and that's my hometown. What what did you do in Miami? She says I went to Miami to do an interview with Sunstar. To you were going to interview somebody, or you were going to interview. I was going to interview Sunstar. Okay, on what? He wanted to speak in relation to the situation. That that Tory Lanez case, right? Or he okay. So was this going to be an episode of your show, or was it some other platform? No. This particular interview was something that I believe Tory team was going to handle because it was all done and everything was handled by them. And did this actually happen? Did you do it? Yes, I conducted the interview. Okay. And did it end up appearing on some media platform? No. No. Was there a live audience? No. Was there a live? Well, I just read that. Was the what? Where was the interview? In Miami, in Tory's studio. There's a not a recording, not for music. It's you know, you can set up like you can decorate a room like a podcast room. It was like that. That's what I mean by studio. Now pause. Do y'all recall her going on Station Head when she was talking about Daddy? And she was talking about putting on his slippers, his luxury designer slippers. Do y'all remember that? We have the recording. Well, okay, let's continue. Okay, and was it a residence or a business place? It was a building and a commercial building. Other than that interview, do you think it was there to make music? What was what was the purpose of that place? Oh, I couldn't say. Do you know why? Why that was chosen for the interview? Did they tell you why we're doing it there? They did not tell me why. No. Okay, and did you have well, tell me about the conversations you had with Tori about the interview. I didn't have a conversation with Tori about the interview. All right. I'm still trying to get back to when you had a real substance back and forth. with Tory about anything. Right. When is the last time? To be honest with you, we didn't have a conversation about substance. When I went to Miami, I was there to interview his dad. And while waiting to get to the studio and to go, I don't know the reasons why we couldn't go yet, but we had to wait. We went to Tori's home, and that is where I was there with him and others. Now, pause. Y'all remember how she talked about sharing a joint with him, and she felt like she was kissing him because they was smoking some reefers, and she talked about passing the blunt. Y'all remember that conversation on StationHead? Y'all remember that? Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let me see where I left off it. Okay, so okay, and it was, hey, how are you doing? He told some stories, laughing, joking. So that's the latest, most significant conversation we had. And Tori has a house in Miami. I believe so. And you said you went there. Yes. Is you saw it? Yes. Do you know what neighborhood it's in? I do not. How much time did you spend there? A few hours. Okay, and you said there were others. Did you know any of the other people there? No, besides Sunstar. How many other people were there? I could not say. Less than 10. Was there anything that they had in common? Were they all related through Tori's case? I could not say. I do not recognize anyone there associated with the case. Was was it just purely social at the house? Yes, it was social. It was like a party. It wasn't a party. It just or hanging out. Yeah. And Tori was there. Yes. And you said what, roughly like 3 hours while you were waiting around for the studio. I don't know how many hours it was. Did you get to know any of the other people there besides Sunstar and Tori? Yes. And tell me who made an impression on you from the rest of that crowd? I don't know her name, but there was a young lady who I met who seemed very nice and sweet. You don't remember her name? I don't, sorry. And did you have an understanding of why she or the other people were there that day? Like what their connection was to the event? No. And I don't believe them. I they weren't associated with my interview with Sunstar. But no, I don't know why they were there. Okay, so you think you and Sunstar just kind of walked in on the gathering that was going to happen anyway? It was already there? Uh-huh. Okay, and within that period of time that you were all together, how much back and forth was there directly between you and Tori? Limited. Like I said, he was telling stories. So, kind of like a viewer sitting on the couch watching. There was a documentary special that we played. So, we all, as a group, commented on that. What was the name of the documentary special? It was, I believe, it was a Kanye West documentary. It came in on some platform, Kanye West, and you guys watched part of it, the whole thing, part of it. Do you remember what the part that everyone watched was commenting about? I don't, but people were talking about that. You do remember generally that right? Yeah, and you can't remember anything about what. Did they like it? Did they hate it? Were they? Yes, they liked it. We talked about the music, and as they were playing clips of the music in the documentary, people paused out to sing it or dance, have a moment and stuff like that. And speaking to Kanye's artistry and how amazing of an artist that he is. Okay, and again, so as best you can recall it, other than just being around for this people hanging out, and you were to bring it down to Milagro and Tory discussing whatever you might have discussed one on one. Is there anything you can remember talking to him? Did you talk about the case? Me and Daystar have never discussed his case. All right. And if you had to mush it all together, all the times that you and Daystar have exchanged words, how much conversation is that? Is it more than an hour? Probably. All right. So did you two fill that out? What were the subjects that you did talk about if you didn't talk about the case? Okay, so there was an initial time that he hit me up, that he spoke on the three-way with his father months later, but he didn't say anything on that call, right? Other than yo, right? Like I said, he was occupied, and then he wrote me on Instagram in my DMs saying that he wanted to do a show, a podcast show, and he was thinking about maybe doing one with me and another podcaster, DJ Academics. Okay, and you do recall when what year this was, or at least in reference to the trial, probably 2021, maybe, And so he and how did that happen? You guys actually spoke? No, he sent the DM and I believe he spoke on it publicly. I think he tweeted. Yeah, he tweeted and said he wanted to do a show with me in academics. Me and him never spoke about it or got into any details. It never materialized into anything. Okay, so I'm trying to fill an hour of conversation here. This is a DM. Did that podcast happen? No. Why not? I couldn't say. Did you try to make that happen? No, not on my end. Well, why not? Because celebrities in Hollywood, people say a lot of things. I didn't put all my eggs in that basket. Okay, did you want to do it? I was open to the idea of trying it out. Now pause. Now who was on that live when she or did she let okay, let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase myself. This is a question, right? Did she come out and have a conversation about this? General question. Y'all write that down. Put that in your notebook now. Write it down now. All right, let's continue. Did you have an understanding of why it happened? No. What is your connection, if any, to academics? DJ Academics. DJ Academics interviewed me after I did trial coverage. Was that during the trial? My interview him was after the trial. It was after the verdict? Yes. Okay, and what platform was that on? There may be many. How was that put out? I believe I'm aware of him putting it on Spotify. I'm not certain what all he streams from. Okay, and when he is not interviewing you on Spotify, what does DJ Academics do? I do not know. He is a streamer. I know that, but other than that, I don't know. And streamer means he goes live and just talks. He he my point of reference with him, he is speaking about trending topics. Uh-huh. Do you associate him with things other than commentary on Tory Lanez case? Yes. Like, what are some of his big issues? DJ Academics. DJ Academics, for me, is more ingrained in the rap culture, in the Chicago's beef in Chicago what? Like Chicago, the Chicago drill scene. Academics has been blamed for causing issues with that community. So that's more so what I know him for. He has a big voice in hip hop. Okay, I didn't know some of these words. Did you say drill scene? Yeah, drill music. Okay, so that's a genre of rap? Yes. Or of music? Of music. Yeah. All right, so he is a commentator in the music business? Yes. All right, and you knew of him before any of this Tory Lanez stuff? Yes. He is a really big streamer. All right. And do you have you in the past prior to Tory Lanez's situation followed him or yes? Yes. Okay. And then at some point, Tory Lanez says, hey, you should do a podcast with DJ Academics about my case, right? No. What was the thing we were talking about where he hit you up and said, She says, so Tory had a quarantine show, which was a streaming show on Instagram that got a lot of attention. And I believe it was along the vein of that. There was no, in any way, in mention of let's do a show about my case. He never gave an idea of it, but I believed it to be something like an extension of quarantine radio. Okay, so the two of you would come on his quarantine radio. He wanted to do something new, but like I said, it never progressed it. So I don't know what that would have looked like for him. All right. Am I right that those conversations, there wasn't really any direct back and forth between you and Tori about anything other than that message, right? There wasn't a real-time conversation there about this podcast? No. He DM'd me about it. All right. Going back in time from there, when was the last time you can recall having a conversation with Tory about anything substantive? You told me you never talked to him about the case, right? Right. So I would say in like of substance of the Miami I told you, and then we had a brief interaction on the first day of trial. And then, all right, Miami was you are in a group. Uh-huh. And you are watching all this, but there's not really, you couldn't tell me anything substantial that it was just you and Tori talking about, right? No. And sounds like any substance about the case all was through his dad, yeah? No, could you, well, you didn't talk to Tori about the case, right? And did Tori, well, let me rewind it. Who it says you did talk to his dad about the case, at least on and off over time, right? Yes. Okay. Do you have the sense that Tory was communicating through his dad? No. Okay. All right. So going back, is there a substantive Tory Milagro conversation about anything? Like, what's the longest single conversation where it was just the two of you were talking? The the first day of trial, he said, today is the day that they're going to paint me out to be a monster. And I said, no, you are not, and everything will be okay. And today is the day they're going to paint me out to be a monster. No, you're going to be okay. And where was that? Literally right in the courtroom. Uh-huh. Inside the courtroom. Uh-huh. And he was walking and he saw you and he said what he said? No. We went into the courtroom and we were seated and I was close enough to him and he said it to me. He was, I assume, inside the well of the courtroom and you were in the first row, maybe. He had, I don't know what the well is, but like the part where the action is on the, and then that's when she chimed in and said he was behind the gate. So people were just filling in the courtroom trying to be seated, and we were seated. So prior to him crossing that threshold, and he said to you, today's the day they're going to paint me out to be a monster. Yes. And you said, no, I don't think that will happen. Right. And that was before any evidence or anything came in. What do you mean? What was before the action started in the courtroom? That was, it was prior to trial. Right. Did he say why he thought that or what the monster stuff was going to be? No, that's all he said. And why did you think that wasn't going to happen? Why did you say, or you were just trying to be comforting? I was trying to be comforting and also didn't believe him to be guilty at that point. Okay, and why did you have a view one way or another about whether he was guilty? Like you didn't know? You weren't there, right? I was not there. Okay, and so, but you did have a view before the trial started that he wasn't guilty? I did believe that. And I want to understand the sources of like the reasons you thought that. She said, uh-huh. You weren't personally exposed to any of the evidence before the trial, right? No. You didn't see what happened that night, right? No. You didn't hear anything, smell anything? No. Did Tory ever tell you what happened that night? No. Now, pause. We have the recording that she did on StationHead where she stated that she was, quote unquote, typing like a reporter. We have the recording. And how she talked about how it wasn't her place to come out here and talk about it. Do y'all remember that? She said it on StationHead. We got the recording. Anyway, let's continue. Did anybody else who was there tell you what happened that night? No. Did any police officers talk to you? No. Did any investigators from the police talk to you? No. Did you personally, prior to the trial, see any other forensic evidence? No. Well, going back to your sort of criminal justice time, when you were looking how to be an investigator and all that stuff, what did you have that would cause you one way or the other to have a belief that he was not guilty? So, and then that's when he cut off and said, I'm talking about prior to the trial when you just had that conversation. So then she chimed back in and said, so, of course. So I was covering another situation. There was a death of a woman and a child in Houston, and I was live on air covering that. And the news broke on TMZ that there had been an incident. At the time, the information was limited. So when I heard it, I said, well, if he did something, then he should go to jail because harming a woman that way or in any way is not okay. And so that was your first reaction? Yes. If he did it, he should go to jail? Absolutely. Absolutely. And what details had you heard at that point? Just the TMZ article? Did that talk about Dance B? No. I couldn't say. All I knew, there was a video footage of Megan Pete walking backwards with bloodied feet. And they said there was an arrest and things of that nature. I don't recall exact details. I don't know if that had been published yet, but just the first video of them out of the vehicle with cops in a situation of some sort. Right. And so you saw TMZ and your first reaction was, if he did that, he should go to jail? Yes. If he shot at a woman and said, Dance B, right? Yes. He should go to jail for that? Objection, assuming facts not in evidence, because she said she didn't know if he said Dance B. He said it is just a deposition. She said, I know, but you are putting words in her mouth. She didn't say Dance B, just for clarity. Did something? Well, you first hear the report, obviously. You have an open mind because you are saying if he did this, he should pay, right? Yes. And then what happens prior to the trial to have you conclude he didn't do this? Yeah, okay. What are the sources you have? So in the first few days after the incident, it was Kelsey's mother, Kelsey Harris, who was in the vehicle. Okay. Her mother and her sister went on social media and they cast out on Megan. And it's what made me initially cast out. Did you know either of them? Kelsey's mother or sister? No. Do you know Kelsey? No. All right. So what did you understand? Did you have an understanding of how Kelsey fit into the underlying events at that point? No. I just knew her proximity to Megan as an assistant. And I saw her in that video get out of the car. So I knew that she had been there. All right. So you have an open mind. And then on social media, the mom and the sister of one of the people who were there put out something. Do you remember what the something was? They said something to the effect that this is where loyalty gets you. My daughter has never been in trouble. This is because of Megan's stupid decisions. And I asked, that's pretty vague. Is it? Oh, in terms of per her statement, so they're saying they didn't say she did or didn't do anything, did they? Kelsey? I couldn't say. The messages that I'm referencing, or what I saw, were them saying they were worried for Kelsey, and I believe they verbatim said it was Megan's stupidity that caused this. Verbatim, I think. I think that's what they said. All right. And did that change your opinion or your belief as to whether Tory pulled the trigger? At that time, there was not an accusation. At that time, we didn't even know there had been a shooting. We just knew there was an incident. And it made me wonder, wait, well, what happened? When they said that the police, when they said let me rewind it back. When they said that they placed the blame on Megan, I had seen Megan hurt getting out of the vehicle. So I was confused. It was supposed to be her best friend. So I was just really confused. Uh-huh. I should have asked you, have you ever had a conversation with Megan? No. Okay. Has Megan ever done anything to you personally, like that hurt you? Do you have a grudge with her? A beef with her? Here go Milagro, y'all. Y'all listen to some tea right here. Some tea. Y'all listen to some tea. Okay, so this is Milagro. I believe she's done something against me personally. Okay, and what was that? She has, or her team has reported my Twitter. That was documented by a journalist. And do you have any sense of when that was? I'm sorry, I don't. Was it late? Like after all the court case? It was prior to trial. It was prior to trial. Okay, you put something up on Twitter about Megan, about the case, and you think Megan's team reached out to Twitter and got them to take it down? The journalist reported that Megan's team told them that they reported a series of tweets that got my Twitter locked. Okay, and so Twitter obviously agreed there was a problem with the tweets, right? Objection calls for speculation. This is Miss Dixon. I wouldn't say so because they did not terminate my page. And after they looked at it, I was given access back to my page. Okay, and did you put these tweets back up? I cannot say what happened with them, honestly. Okay, you remember what you had tweeted that Megan's team objected to? Not at the time, no. Did you ever put things out as if it was facts about the Megan trial or the Megan situation when it was really just your opinion? No, I always ask questions. Okay. And so the sister and the mom of the friend cast out. Anything else happened between then and the first day of trial when you went from if he did it, he should pay to you are not a monster and you are not going to go to jail? Right. So Kelsey's mother and sister cast out, and I started to question things. And then Megan made a public statement that she was a victim of a crime against her. She mentions a shooting. And I was confused because she went to the hospital. But what I learned at school, if somebody comes into the hospital with a gunshot or a stab wound, even if it's self-inflicted, that must be reported. And per my understanding, when she went to the hospital, even though Daystar was in jail and everything, it wasn't reported that they didn't say anything about it until like October and said they were accusing him of da 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 da. Y'all know how she says that da 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 da. So that it's literally written out just like that. Now pause right there. Have anybody peep game or notice every time she talks and then she wants to throw out and da 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 da? What does that mean to y'all? I'm gonna let you, that's my opinion, my question. But y'all, what do y'all think when she always does that? But okay, let's continue. So I felt like it was fishy that police were not called there and that something didn't follow up then. Okay, but I mean, nobody in the hospital had a job of keeping you up to speed on what they did, right? Like, and then she says, well, it was public record. So as we were reading and going through the things, I posted that question. Well, this is what is supposed to happen in a situation like this. It doesn't appear as though it did, but you didn't have any information. You were just asking questions. Right, right. At any point between when you think if he did it, he should pay, to you get to the first day of trial and you were telling him you were not a monster. Did you do anything besides ask questions? Did you get in any actual information from somebody who has evidence in the case? No. All right. So whatever changed there, it wasn't based on new information. No. It was based on what I was seeing. That's what I'm trying to understand. So you start out and you say, I don't know anything. I don't even know that there's a shooting, right? You get to a point where not only is there alleged to be a shooting, uh-huh, but the guy's on trial, right? Felonies, uh-huh. And you are in court. You have whatever the friend's mother and sister said, but it was pretty vague, right? Yeah. What is the information you get between then and the first day of trial? Actual factual information that would cause you to feel differently about whether he shot her? Okay, so the most essential thing that took place was a conversation between me and Tamika Mallory. Tamika Mallory? Okay, Tamika Mallory challenged my viewpoint, and she encouraged me to go read, and I said okay, and I there was a preliminary hearing that took place in December 2021. Yes, and I obtained the transcripts. Yes, and I read through them. And what is when she said, and that is when I absolutely felt like, wait a minute, I don't think he's guilty. And in that sense, you came to a different conclusion than the judge, right? It was a judge there. No, this is me streaming. No, I understand. But you were saying I took some information that was presented to the judge at the preliminary hearing. Uh huh. And the judge obviously decided he is going to stay for trial. It's enough. And you said, no, I read it the other way. When I read it, all I thought was something is not right here. That's what I thought. Y'all, let me take a sip of water 1 second. Oh, I love that circle bottle. You got a little different flavors. Oh, anyway, let me get back to it. Oh, the throat moist. Y'all hear that smack? Oh, okay. Anyway, let's start. When I read it, all I thought was something's not right here. That's what I thought. That's a question, right? What do you mean? That's not a fact, right? That's a feeling or something. She said, right. That's not a fact. That's all my opinion is, right? Okay. And I'm trying to distinguish between opinions and facts. Right, right. I always just question what the paperwork said. So once I read the paperwork and it said there was an altercation, now I felt like that was a motive. Okay. But no new facts. I felt like how those were facts and that was in court. Under penalty of perjury, everybody was supposed to tell the truth. So the things that were revealed there, I accepted them as a fact. She says that there had been a fight and that, the situation as it was presented. Did Tory ever deny to you that he shot the pew pew? Y'all know that. Y'all see what that is. Y'all know what that says. He never spoke about the situation. Well, she says, we never spoke about the situation. Okay. Okay, all right. What should I do here? It's 12:15 and we're going to start doing some of these tweets. Should we take a break now or court reporter is asking for a break? You want a break? All right, okay, so let's get past that. They took a break. Can we take a break? La la la. She says 40 minutes. They say, sure, is that okay? La 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 la. Okay, so they took a break from 12:16 to 1:11. Okay, let's pick it back up. Okay, so I'm going to mark as the first exhibit 40, right? 41, 40, or 40, I think. So they marked Exhibit 40 for identification. I'll give it to your lawyer, and we're going to play the video. Mrs. Cooper, there's no video? There's no video for this one. Got it. Okay, a tweet. All right. So the witness has marked exhibit. You said 40, right? Uh-huh. For the record, I've marked as exhibit 40 a one-page document. It appears to be a depiction of a post from Milagro. Say what it says. My first question to you is this something you posted on social media, exhibit 40? I believe so. All right. And it says at the bottom, 7:12 p.m., December the 24th of 2023, 52.3 thousand views. Is all that accurate as far as you know? As far as I know. All right. And can you just read your tweet into the record? Yes. And then it says as read. Megan wants to know what she has to do to stop being posted on certain outlets. And then she says she's going to Cardi B. Y'all hoes. My suggestion would be to just get over it or go away. Cardi won her case because Tasha K handed it to her. Other than that, you are going to get posted. Oh, well. Okay, had something happened before this that caused you to sin to put it post out at this time? Something had to have happened, but I couldn't say exactly. Girl, you know exactly what happened. Now, that's my opinion alone. Well, this quote, Cardi B, y'all, whatever, HS, is that from some other post that you read? No, I would imagine because I see that there's a timer, 4 seconds. Maybe it was a video, a live, she said. You are saying the little 4 seconds down at the bottom means that this picture is actually a 4-second video? I believe so. And is that of Megan crying? Of her touching her face? I don't see her crying, not to me. Okay, and did you, in fact, watch a video of her saying, what do I have to do to stop getting posted on by you? I believe so. Okay, and you said what she needs to do is just get over it or go away? Yes. What does go away mean? What did you mean? What I mean is there are so many different major outlets speaking about the situation, contradicting her claims and calling her an outright liar. Joe Budden, academics. Now, why are you... Now, pause. You just could have said a broad of outlets, but why do you stay naming Joe Budden and everything? And then why do you still and keep talking about DJ Academics? Now, that's my opinion. No, we're going to keep moving. Just everywhere you turn, everybody was questioning her. So when she was in the live or asking what can she do, and I'm saying go away, stop talking about it, move on. She said it publicly. She was going to move on, or go have peace. What do you want to do? You want to be in the industry? Or I don't know. I see. But the solution wasn't for people to stop saying all this stuff, including you. Saying what stuff? Whatever she's complaining about. Calling her a liar? Could you ask me that again? I'm sorry. Yes. The thing you are reacting to is Megan saying, what do I need to do to get people to stop posting, right? Right. And the things they're posting are, among other things, posted by people like you saying she's a liar and she lied at the trial, right? I don't know exactly who she was talking to, but I would imagine maybe those are some of the things she's upset about. Yes, and at least you know that you said that about her before she said, what do I need to do to stop this? Do I know? She says, do I know that I said that? Yes. That she's a liar? Yes. And that she lied at the trial. I have called her a liar in terms of saying she lied at the trial. I'm not going to say I said that. Girl, Okay, let's continue. You are denying you said that. You said that many times, right? I would need to see what you are referencing or see exactly what you're talking about. Oh, so now you don't know, Milagro? You don't know what you've been saying? Oh, okay, let's continue. Okay, but sitting here today, telling the truth, you can't recall having said in a public space that Meg lied at the trial? I did not say that. I posed the question. Okay, you never affirmatively called her a liar? I have called Megan a liar. What am I missing? That Megan has lied many times, so I've called her a liar for different reasons. All right, but you are saying you never called her a liar. You never said she lied at the trial. I posted a question. Did she lie at trial? And why did you pose that question? Because there was witness testimony or expert testimony. She had nerve damage from her. I'm sorry. Megan said she had nerve damage. The expert said she did not. That's a contradiction to me. But you just read part of the stuff, right? I was there. You don't know the whole story was? What do you mean? Did you see the medical evidence? I saw the medical report. Did you see the medical report? Did you see an x-ray of bullets in her foot? Objection. I could not say that because facts not in evidence. Pardon? When we were in court, they did not say bullet fragments. They said metallic fragments. Metallic is not glass, right? I'm not an expert, but you are casting an opinion on whether Megan told the truth based on forensic evidence, right? Well, bullet fragments went missing as it was reported, so I could not. You sat in the courtroom and saw the doctor who worked on her foot show you the x-ray that had metallic fragments on her foot. Yes? Uh-huh. Yes. And TMZ reported that glass was broken. And she did tell cops she stepped on glass. And a medical report stated she was treated for glass. What does one have to do with the other if there's bullet fragments in her foot? She said that's a professional should know the difference between glass and bullets, and that the people who responded on scene outside of her claiming she stepped on glass, and the TMZ report saying that there was glass in the vehicle, her wound did not look consistent to me, and I did look it up with gunshot wounds. Yeah, I mean, and by the time we got to court, there was a medical report put out by another outlet, Fed It, I believe. Myron Gaines. Why is she bringing up everybody? But okay, let's continue. And the medical report stated that she was treated for glass. So to me, that was very questionable. Did somebody need to be removed from the hospital? I don't want to go to the hospital, and you can't tell the difference between glass and bullets. He said, all right. Do you have any personal knowledge that she was shot? She wasn't shot? She said no. Do you have any admissible evidence suggesting she wasn't shot? No. Okay, did Tory at the trial say, I didn't shoot her? No. Okay, has Tory ever said to you, I didn't shoot her? No. Megan said at the trial that he did. Yeah. Right. Okay. Tory had publicly stated he didn't do anything wrong online. It wasn't done under oath, right? Was not willing to say it on oath. It would have been really good for him to say that on the oath, right? Well, that wasn't my concern. Objection. That calls for speculation. That wasn't your concern? No. You were asking me why I didn't believe her. So him not on the stand wasn't my concern. Prior to that, it was Megan lying. When police arrived on the scene, she wasn't honest. And that, to me, that was a hit on her credibility. She went on Instagram Live multiple times contradicting herself. It is a fact that she was not in her original seat. So the weapon that was there, she moved. And all that was presented to a jury of her peers. And the way we do it in America, and he was convicted of having shot her, right? Objection argumentative, says Dixon. That's what happened right before your eyes in the courtroom. Objection argumentative. It was, but thank God for the appeals court. They haven't done anything with that conviction. Not yet, but thank God for it. That's why they appeal. And you are going to be saying the same stuff even if the appeal is dismissed or the conviction is affirmed. I can't speak to the future, but right now, I don't believe a case was proven. I heard prosecutors say DNA was a wash. I don't believe that DNA is essential. What do you mean you don't believe that the case was proven? They put on a case and the jury convicted. What is the definition of proven if it's not that? Well, for me, I believe that the Court of Appeals, it exists for the reason that if something didn't go the way you believe, you have a chance to argue it. And many people have been found innocent after being convicted. Uh-huh. Especially black men. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay. Cardi won her case because Tasha K handed it to her. Uh-huh. What does that mean? There were assertions that this blogger, Tasha K, made that I felt like sealed the deal for her in her case. What do you mean? She lost her defamation case with Cardi B. You mean Cardi B successfully sued Tasha K for defaming her? Yes. Okay, and you are being sued here today for defaming Megan, right? I'm accused of defaming Megan, yes. Yes, and you are saying that you think your situation is going to come out differently because Tasha K handed it to her? What I'm saying is me and Tasha K are two different people, and the things that were said there are not similar to what I stated. Well, you stated that Megan lied under oath in a criminal trial, right? That's defamatory. I posed the question, okay, and in what way did Tasha K hand Cardi B this case? In my opinion, the assertions that she made without proof of it is why she lost her case. What did she say without proof? She accused Cardi of an STD, and she didn't have proof of that. Tasha K did not. Okay, you don't have proof of anything, do you? No, not in this. Objection, argumentative, says Miss Dixon. Anything you said, you don't have actual admissible proof of it, right? You are speculating based on stuff you read or somebody told you. Yeah? Yes. Okay. And then here go the videographer. Counsel, can we take a paper off? Can we take the paper off the mic? Thank you. All right. I'm going to mark as Exhibit 41. Okay. So they talk about one-page document at Bates number PT165 appears to be Instagram MilagroGramz 409 p.m. March 12th, 2022. Twitter for iPhone marked as for identification. And I'll ask you, Ms. Cooper, is this something you posted on the date indicated on 41? I believe so. Okay, tell me everything about this. Why did you do this? I had a question. So I posted on Twitter. All right. What do you have a question about? What's going on here? The first picture on the left, it says Mob Radio. And it looks like, what is that? A meat cutter? That looks like a still shot of a music video. I don't know if I see meat cutter, but I see what looks like a leg and a body and arms. Now, pause. If y'all don't recall, that's that video that Tory Lanez made. To my recollection, and my opinion, this is my opinion alone. I think that's what they're referring to. But let's continue to read. Somebody's cutting up a body part, yeah? Is that a horse's? Somebody appears to be in a butcher shop. Okay, and you were the one that picked this image. I couldn't say, well, you posted it. Would you post something that wasn't selected by you? What wait, go back to the original question. You asked, like, did I you said, did I take that screenshot? Did you choose the image to include for the post? Yeah. All right. I'm going to be careful again. We're starting to talk over each other. All right. Mrs. Dixon, hold on one second. We need a break for a sec. Can we go off the record for a second? Does everybody agree? Okay, so they went off the record. Wait, we're not off the record. Get some tea, let's see. So let's see what this says. It says, I'm sorry, counsel, wait, hold on. Do you want me to read us off? And then Mr. Sullivan says, why are we doing this? Are you okay? Since you agree, I have a question. I just got an email. Wait, we're not off the record. We're not off the record. Okay. Do you agree to go off the record? No. Why are we doing with that? Because you took the drive that I want in. This business is about your other case. Oh, girl, there's some tea, y'all. There's some tea, y'all. Y'all listen to the tea. Okay, so let's get it. Let's get into this right here. This business about your other case in the drive. I'm going to do a deposition here. Well, no. He says I'm trying to do a deposition here, Miss Dixon. It's not a case. It's this case. It's some evidence in this case. I asked you to copy it, and you said that what they were going to do. And now Dan tells me you took it. That's the only copy I have. Take it outside. You represented that you were going to copy it through your people, and you were going to give me another. Okay, I'm in the middle of questioning the witness, please. I wouldn't have given it to you if I have known you were going to take it. I told you clearly that it wasn't your copy. They are copying it. They can't do it all in one sitting. Please. We're on Exhibit 41. Number one, did you create this post? I believe so. Okay, on or about the time it's dated, March the 12th, 2022? I believe so. Okay, and did you, prior to posting this, talk with anybody about what you were going to put up here? No. Did you tell anybody in advance you were going to post something about horses and legs? No. Okay, did you create this Exhibit 41, the post, all by yourself? Yes. Nobody helped you? No. Did you talk to a lawyer before you did this? No. Were you worried you would get in legal trouble for doing this? No. Now, pause. Does anybody have this Twitter post in question? Actually, we do. We do. It might be at the bottom of this exhibit, but we're going to keep reading. Were you worried you can get in legal trouble? She says no. Okay. Have you been worried at any time during your posting about Megan that you face legal problems for doing what you're doing? No. All right. Daystar, is that a horse leg? Two different emojis? What were you trying to communicate there? When this music video was released, people thought that it was a horse leg in the music video. They thought maybe he had been taunting Megan. So I put it online to see what the response from the public would be. What did they think about it, basically? See, I was right. How you doing? All right, let's keep reading. Tell me what online reactions you were addressing here. What were people saying that you were responding to? People were accusing Tory of taunting Megan by putting what they thought was a horse leg in the video, in a music video he released. Okay, and people were saying that online? Uh-huh. And then you went and found a picture of a horse leg and asked him if it's a horse leg? Not necessarily asked him. But see, pause. But why would you even post that if question? Now I got a question. This is my opinion alone. Who asked you to go and investigate if there was a horse leg picture in his video? Who asked you to clarify that? Who? Okay, let's continue. And then you went and found a picture of a horse leg and asked him if it's a horse leg. She said not necessarily ask him. You can have questions that can have a motive, right? If you're trying to put people somewhere. So on social media, when it comes to me posting something like this, there's not an expectation. She said there's not an expectation that Daystar or any person would necessarily answer. It's just, once again, highlighting a trending topic. And then you see the responses from the public. The public thought it was a horse leg. So I post to say, Daystar, is this a horse leg? And then you see what the public says based on that. Okay, then you move forward. Uh-huh. And did you get responses to this? I could not say. Exhibit 41. I could not say. I see the stats on it, but I couldn't say in terms of responses to it. Did Daystar answer your question? No. Sitting here today, do you know whether he intended to mock or troll her by putting a horse leg in his video? I do not. I don't even know if that's a horse leg. Okay. One way or another? I don't know. No. You are just throwing out questions. Right. I was curious. Okay. Can we pull up? Are we at 42? 23A, the video clip? This is going to be 42. No, is it 42? 42B. Okay, let me skip all this. I ain't got time for that. All right, so where we going to? Okay. The video we're going to watch is 42A. Let me know. Okay. Okay, so yes. Okay, so all right, so let's start right here. All right, so we just listened to the audio and saw the video. Miss Cooper, it's 42A, which we just watched. You talking on one of your platforms, yes? In the transcript, 42B, you had a chance to look at that. Does that accurately capture what you said? Yes. Okay, we were just talking about you calling Megan a liar. You said here, because I always said her ass was lying. B, right? That's pretty clear, yeah? You accused her of lying. But about what? In general? Once again, she lied about many things. So, but I think what you said before was, I didn't call her a liar. I just asked questions, right? That's what you said. No, you said that I had said that she purged herself. And I said, no, I did not say that. I asked the question, but I told you that she's lied many times. So I have called her a liar. Do you deny saying right here? Is this publicly posted? Objection, argumentative. I'm in the middle of my question, counsel. Okay. I asked you if you had called Megan a liar. And then I showed you something where you say, because I always said her ass was lying. And do you not think that's calling her a liar? I think that it's important to acknowledge what I'm saying she's lying about. Why? Because you can't put it all in one box. She has lied about many things. But the listener doesn't know what you are talking about. Yes, they do. How could they? You say she is a liar, right? The listener are the ones that have been keeping up with everything. So if they're following, then they would know that. And Megan herself has asserted that she lied to Gayle King. So she's a liar per her own admission. It says further down, the F, a BF with my ninja, I'm going to slap that hoe. And whatever comes after it comes after it. What does that mean? That means that, hypothetically speaking, that if I became aware of infidelity, that I wouldn't get upset. What? What did you just say, Milagro? That don't make sense at all. That means that, hypothetical speaking, that if I became aware of infidelity, that I wouldn't get upset. That's what you get from this sentence? Absolutely, because that's what I meant. Really? Okay, let's continue. Me and Megan have never shared a man, so I wouldn't be speaking of her. I still don't understand what you were saying. Hypothetically speaking, a B is any human. If a B messes with my man, has sex with my man, then I would be upset. And are you saying this is the explanation for the Megan shooting? No, this statement here is me literally saying that who is who is the B? Who is the N word in this? She got the stuttering, y'all. She got the stuttering. This is what my statement is hypothetical in relation to the case. Megan was accused of sleeping with Tory behind Tory's back, or behind Kelsey's back. So I said, so it's a reference to that. You can't make it that I'm speaking of her is my point because I'm hypothetically stated. She said I hypothetically stated. Doesn't say hypothetically in there. It doesn't have to. It's a text about Megan. Right, but you were asking me about what I meant, and that's what I meant. Okay, and you understand that it's possible someone who read this would take it as a direct statement about Megan, right? I do not understand that because we come from different places and you are misinterpreting what I meant. So, okay, so your testimony under oath right now is you weren't referring to Megan when you said this sentence? No, I was speaking hypothetically. Could be anybody, right? If any woman messes with my man, then I'm going to do such and such and da 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 da. Y'all know that language whenever she says da 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 da. Y'all know, y'all pick up on it, right? Now this is my opinion. My opinion. No. All right, let's continue. It was hypothetical. Yes. And you happen to bring that up as the last sentence of 5 sentences you spoke all about Megan, right? Yeah, it's a hypothetical statement based on things. How would the reader know? Who would have been reading it? It was alive. How would the listeners know? Because they've been keeping up with the coverage, all of them. I cannot amount for every single person, but the same people, very much so, showed up and supported. Yes. Okay, you stand behind everything you said here in Exhibit 42B. What do you mean by that? Stand behind it. You said you take it back. Any of it? Once again, take back what? There's a lot of things said here. Yeah, any of it. You take back? Not in this moment. I would need more time to think over that. What you need time to think over, Milagro? What you need time to think over? Okay, let's continue. Okay. All right, I'm going to mark as 43 a copy of the operative complaint, and then I'm going to do them together. All right, so they're about to mark this into identification. Okay, so they marked it into the identification. Okay, so let's start right here. First of all, Mrs. Cooper, I have a couple of questions about specific parts of this complaint that started the case and your answer. But if you want to be comfortable, you look at as much of it as you want. I'm not sure trying. I'm not sure just trying show part, showing a part. So I'll show you what I care about, and then you decide what you want to read. But I'm just going to focus on page 8. In paragraph 27, why don't you go ahead and read that yourself? Okay. And tell me when you're done. I'm done. Okay. And now look, if you turn the answer to page 3, I'm going to try to get the matching. So whatever 27 is there. You see your response in 27? Okay. I apologize. I should have done this first. Am I right that 44 is a copy of the answer and your counsel filed for you in this case? Yes. Okay, so on 27, you read what it says there. And then your answer says that you admit to operating numerous social media accounts one time or another and has submitted to oral discretion. And then in the end, you say defendant also denies that she is a sole speaker, writer, and or editor of every post on her social media accounts. Can you tell me what that refers to? Now she's talking about Mike again. To Mike, who the internship situation. Okay, and so he like, how would you describe what that is? Someone is helping you get your tweets out or your posts? No. Someone who would determine what was trending in post worthy and post in writer caption. Okay. Was involved in posting any tweets that had been alleged to the defamatory of Megan? Not that I know of. Okay. You are not saying here that he is responsible for something that's in this case? No. Okay, all right. Now, let's turn to page 12 on the complaint. And I'm focused on paragraph 42. It might be easier if I read this one. This is under the heading that says, defendant promoted the deepfake video. As read, in June 2023, defendant registered for an X account using the screen name Mom's World. In registering for an account, defendant created a profile on X, including, amongst other things, a, quote, likes page on her X profile. Likes are a feature of X whereby a user can show their support for a post by clicking the like button, which is portrayed as a